Chapter 31-35. After all, Falling Moon and the others were 9 Defiance people and were on the bounty list. Even if they hadn't offended anyone, they would still end up as prey. If the 5 of them stayed together, they wouldn't have anything to fear. But if they split up, the situation would be very different. That was why Falling Moon had warned them to be careful. After the discussion, the group entered the tomb. Just as Ling Xiao had said, they were teleported out of the tomb. What a powerful teleportation portal. Whoever set it up has a much higher cultivation base than I do. By the time Ling Xiao could see again, he was already in a passageway. The passageway was made of ice crystals, and even the floor was covered with thick chunks of ice. He had tried to use his Taiji eye to find his teammates, but had failed. The restrictions in the graveyard were much more terrifying than those outside. Even the Taiji eye was blocked. He could only see about 100 meters away, unable to go any further. At the same time, 3 other people appeared near Ling Xiao. One was Empress Lan Meichen. The other was Jin Fengming. Both of them were 2nd Division Life Seizers, but Empress Lan Meichen was still stronger than Jin Fengming. After all, when it came to talent, she was more impressive. He had broken through, and was now one of the strongest in the 2nd Division of Life Seizing. His cultivation base, C, was now at 30% power. As for Jin Fengming, his cultivation base, C, was at 0. The third person was none other than Amaterasu Oni. After devouring the corpses and cores of powerful experts, especially the power core of the Black Forest Emperor, he was already close to the peak of the 2nd Division of the life-seizing level. His cultivation base, C, was now at 90% power. Out of these 3 people, 2 of them had a deep grudge with Ling Xiao. Although Jin Fengming didn't have any grudges with Ling Xiao, because of his jealousy, he didn't have a very good impression of Ling Xiao. If they ran into each other, there was no telling what would happen. Because they were separated by a wall, other than Ling Xiao, the others could not see the existence of the others. They were all moving forward slowly. "Boss, I smell something good." At some point, Little Gold had awoken. Thanks to the help of his Earth-Gore Flaming Lotus, he was now a 2nd Division Life-Sizer, and his fighting prowess was no weaker than Duguxiong's. "You're awake." Ling Xiao was a little excited. Xiao Jin had awakened and become stronger. This meant that he had another powerful helper. "What good stuff?" Ling Xiao asked with a smile. "It should be something suitable for all demonic beasts. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but I can smell it." Xiao Jin said, "All right, you lead the way." Ling Xiao followed the direction that Little Gold pointed and came to a tomb. He pushed open the door of the tomb and walked in. There were no restrictions in this tomb, and there was actually a pool of blood-red liquid inside. Blood? Moreover, it was the blood of an ancient demonic beast. Why is there so much ancient demon beast blood in the graveyard? Ling Xiao was perplexed. But one thing is for sure. Xiao Jin can soak in the blood of these ancient demon beasts, which can also increase his strength. The effect is even better than swallowing heat, because not only can it increase the cultivation, but it can also strengthen the body. Ha ha ha, my luck is really good. I can actually find so much ancient demon beast blood here. If I absorb these things, I should be able to condense a more outstanding body. Suddenly, a voice came from outside the tomb. Ling Xiao looked back and couldn't help but frown. The person who came turned out to be Amami Aniki. If it was Jin Fengming or Lan Meichen, there might be no need to fight. But Amami Aniki is very troublesome. Idiot. Ling Xiao looked at Amami Aniki with disdain. He kept all the ancient demon beast blood in the pool and put it into the mountain river world. However, he was not in a hurry to let Xiao Jin soak in it. At this stage, there are more troubles. With Xiao Jin around, it should be safer. When they are outside, there will be a lot of time for Xiao Jin and even Long Qin to soak in the ancient demon beast blood to increase their strength. Speaking of Long Qin, this guy and Cold Plum entered the heaven and ancient ruins to cultivate. I wonder how the situation is. I haven't seen him yet. I'm really worried. Ling Xiao, if you are willing to hand over the things, I can spare your life and let you be my skin. How about it? Amami Aniki sneered. He directly blocked the tomb's door, not ready to let Ling Xiao leave. You really are an idiot. You were clearly almost killed by me. Since you were lucky enough to escape, you should live well. Why did you provoke me for no reason? Are you crazy because you want to die? Ling Xiao looked at Amami Aniki not in a hurry. Although the other party's cultivation has increased a lot, he has also increased. All right. Since you are so stubborn, then don't blame me. From today onwards, there will no longer be a person called Ling Xiao in this world. Let's settle the old and new grudges together. Today, you will completely disappear from this world. Amami Aniki revealed a sinister expression and released a gloomy ghost aura. With just you. Ling Xiao laughed mockingly. He didn't even take the demon dragon sword. He didn't even enter any beast soul transformation state. To be honest, your strength is not even comparable to Jin Fengming and Empress Lan Meichen. The power you obtained by occupying someone else's body is not yours. You have always been so arrogant, but today is the end. Amami Aniki has always wanted Ling Xiao to die. He believes that now is the best time. But just as he was about to make his move, footsteps suddenly came from the tomb. The two who appeared in front of them were Jin Fengming and Empress Lan Meichen. Ling Xiao? And who is that guy who looks neither like a human nor a ghost? He feels very strong. Both of them had the same feeling. Who are you two going to help? Amami Aniki asked coldly. Ling Xiao and I have an irreconcilable grudge. Naturally, I won't let him live. Empress Lan Meichen said, I won't help anyone. I will just watch the show. Although Jin Fengming was jealous of Ling Xiao, he wouldn't kill Ling Xiao. After all, Ling Xiao was someone who helped his sister. He still had this bit of principle. That would be best. Amami Aniki knew Empress Lan Meichen. In fact, as long as Empress Lan Meichen didn't help Ling Xiao, he had nothing to fear. After killing Ling Xiao, he would definitely be weakened. But it didn't matter. With the ancient beast blood, he could naturally recover. Even if Jin Fengming and Empress Lan Meichen wanted to take advantage of the situation, he could escape. You are so scared and you still want to take revenge? What a joke. Ling Xiao didn't put Jin Fengming and Empress Lan Meichen in his eyes, although those two weren't weak. But Ling Xiao felt that he was stronger. Even if he killed Amami Aniki, he wouldn't lose much. Not to mention, he still had Xiao Jin. Since you are in such a hurry to die, I will fulfill your wish. Amami Aniki revealed a sinister smile. Evil spirit, kill. Following Amami Aniki's roar, a ghost-like thing came out of his body. Chapter 31-36. Boom! Facing the incoming malicious spirit, Ling Xiao simply threw out a punch. It was so simple that it was unbelievable. However, this punch was extremely profound, and there were almost no flaws in it. This punch landed directly on the ghost's body. The vengeful ghost let out a horrifying shriek as it was blown apart. No, impossible. My ghost was refined from the corpse of a first-level life-sizer. Although its defense wasn't strong enough, its attack was incomparably sharp. How could you kill it so easily? Kisei Amami was shocked. Once again, he was shocked by Ling Xiao's strength. So strong! Empress Lan Meichen and Jin Fengming, who were watching the battle, couldn't help but swallow their saliva. They had thought that after breaking through, they could easily defeat Ling Xiao. However, this scene made them feel fear at the same time. Being able to oppress Ling Xiao was merely a dream. The two of them knew that they couldn't block Kisei Amami's attack. They had to dodge it. If they took it head-on, they would definitely be seriously injured. Are you afraid? Unfortunately, it's too late. Next, it's your real body. Ling Xiao sneered. The old grudge would finally be completely settled today. No, I can't die yet. Kisei Amami roared, and once again turned into a ball of black liquid and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. However, a moment later he appeared again. This was because he who was about to escape had slammed into the barrier. "Do you think I'll make the same mistake twice?" Ling Xiao mocked. "I let you escape last time. That's why there's trouble this time. So this time you can just die for me." "I don't want to." "Rock Ghost, defend." Since he couldn't escape, Kisei Amami could only defend. Another ghost appeared in his body. However, it was different from the previous ghost. This rock ghost was responsible for the heavy defense. Kisei Amami's entire body was protected by the rock ghost. All kinds of runes flashed on the rock ghost's body. It looked like its defense was quite good. Boom, boom, boom. Ling Xiao tried to throw out a few punches, and the terrifying energy kept exploding on the rock devil's body. However, the strange thing was that as soon as the power came into contact with the rock devils, it would be instantly divided. It turned into several, dozens, or even hundreds of copies. This caused the attack to weaken, making it unable to injure Amami Oni. "Ha ha 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 ha, you can't kill me. Although I don't quite understand why you've suddenly become so strong. I'm not sure why you've suddenly become so strong. But my rock devil's defense is absolutely invincible. You won't be able to break it no matter what." Seeing that Ling Xiao's attack hadn't broken through his defense, Oni Amami immediately recovered from his panic and became happy again. "Is that the same thing again?" Ling Xiao mocked. The so-called invincible is often not truly invincible. At this point, Ling Xiao's body rapidly transformed into the cosmic light tiger beast soul. The demon dragon sword also appeared in his hand. The cosmic light tiger's cosmic light body could greatly increase the attack speed of the demon dragon sword. This was also the reason why Ling Xiao used it. Strange Flame sword technique, Black Flame sword. The sword intent gushed out and spread throughout the entire tomb. At that moment, the sword aura released by the demon dragon's sword turned into a thin thread and sped out. Under the effect of the body of cosmic light, his speed had reached an astonishing level. Crack! A small hole was pierced through the so-called invincible rock devil. Cracks continuously appeared around the small hole. The runes nearby began to distort and deform, as if they were attacked by too much power and couldn't even maintain themselves. "So scary! He actually managed to break it open." Jean Fengming exclaimed in her heart and looked at Empress Lan Meichen. "Can you do it?" Empress Lan Meichen gritted her teeth and didn't say anything. She didn't want to say that she couldn't do it, but she also didn't want to lie, so she could only remain silent. Ling Xiao's attack was really too powerful. Even if he didn't transform, the two of them were definitely no match for him. After transforming, he was even more ridiculously powerful. The rock devil's defense was so terrifying that the two of them thought that they couldn't break it no matter what. But Ling Xiao actually pierced countless cracks in the rock devil in an instant. How can this be? Amami Oniyoshi was anxious. His body released even more noble chi and quickly closed the cracks. "Can you make it?" Ling Xiao showed a mocking expression. The demon dragon's sword in his hand stabbed out again and again. The terrifying sword aura all pierced the small hole. Amami Oniyoshi couldn't repair it in time. The small hole became bigger and bigger. Amami Oniyoshi's expression became more and more unsightly. "Damn it! You're the first guy to force me to use the energy core. But the moment I use the energy core, you won't have any chance." A mass of black energy flew out from his body. At the same time, his body lost consciousness. The black energy was injected into the rock devil's body. The speed of the crack's repair increased tenfold. It had already surpassed the speed of Ling Xiao's destruction. In less than a minute, the small holes and cracks were completely healed. Interesting. Energy core? If you break it, you'll be done for." Ling Xiao sneered. His strength increased again. Behind him, the beast soul of the frost dragon appeared. With the appearance of this beast soul, Ling Xiao's attack power became even stronger, and it also had a freezing effect. Any defense would become brittle once it was frozen. He believed that the rock devil would be no different. Gently exhaling, Ling Xiao pointed the demon dragon sword at Amami, Oniyoshi again. Black flame sword, ice and fire. Boom! With Ling Xiao as the starting point, a blue and black sword aura blended together broke through the air. This sword aura was incomparably powerful. It hit the rock devil heavily. At that moment, the rock devil was directly penetrated. Even the energy core hidden in the rock devil's body was directly hit and exploded. This guy is simply a monster, Empress Lan Mei-chan exclaimed and turned to flee. He could no longer face Ling Xiao. He had just regained a little confidence. But after watching Ling Xiao's battle, his confidence had completely crumbled. Perhaps father is right. Sister has a good eye. This guy is really too strong. I'm not as good as him. Jean Fengming also left quietly. Since she didn't want to be enemies with Ling Xiao, there was no need to stay with Ling Xiao. After killing Amami Oniyoshi, Ling Xiao could be considered to have settled an old grudge. He took Amami Oniyoshi's storage ring and looked through it. There were nearly 5 million mid-level spirit stones in it. There was also a mid-level general-level martial art. In the Sword Dynasty, the strongest offensive martial art was the mid-level general level. The Tiangang sword formation that the Poison Sage gave Ling Xiao was only equivalent to a peak-level general-level martial art. But that thing could only be learned by those who knew formations. It would be a burden for ordinary people. Chapter 30-137 5 Ghosts Mystic Technique. The mid-level general-level martial art he obtained from Tianhai Guishing's storage ring was the 5 Ghosts Mystic Technique. Originally, it was to condense 5 powerful ghost slaves by condensing ghost chi. They were the malicious ghosts, main attack; rock ghost, main defense; female ghost, main charm; in ghost, main sneak attack and assassination; Ghost King, all 4 and even more powerful. Ling Xiao made some changes to the 5 Ghosts Mystic Technique. Instead of using ghost chi, he directly condensed 5 ghosts with the heavenly tribulation true essence. Not only was the effect not reduced, but it was also more powerful. It just lacked some gloomy aura. However, Ling Xiao had the heavenly demon bloodline, so it was not difficult for him to add some gloomy and terrifying aura to the 5 ghosts. It's such a good thing. I might as well cultivate it first. The power of the heavenly flame sword technique is gradually unable to keep up with my cultivation. Thinking up to this point, Ling Xiao closed the door of the tomb and began to cultivate inside. In less than 10 minutes, he had cultivated the 5 Ghosts Mystic Technique to the minor accomplishment stage. Next, the best way to improve his cultivation level was to use it in battle. Fortunately, even at the minor accomplishment stage, a mid-level general-level martial art was comparable to a low-level general-level martial art. Therefore, even at the minor accomplishment stage, it could still be of great help to him. After cultivating, Ling Xiao left the tomb and walked deeper into the tomb. Perhaps because he had been delayed for a while, there was no one on the way. In a certain tomb, the Earth Emperor and the Shell Emperor were together. The Shell Emperor needed the Earth Emperor's ability to find treasures. The Earth Emperor needed the Shell Emperor's powerful strength to protect him and avenge him. He did not forget his oath to kill Ling Xiao. As long as he had the chance, he would definitely do so. However, after suffering at the hands of Ling Xiao, he was not very confident in himself. That was why he had hooked up with the Shell Emperor. In the process of searching for treasures, he could sense the earth element, so it was very convenient. Damn it! After searching for so long, it's all trash. Is there no treasure in this Ice Venerable's tomb? The Earth Emperor urgently needed treasures because he wanted revenge. Not only did he want to kill Ling Xiao, he also wanted Tian Zhuwang's life. Although he had found some treasures that would have been valuable to anyone under the first division of the life-seizing level, to him, they were nothing more than trash. Didn't they say that someone obtained a 4,000-year-old tribulation fruit tree? Seashell Emperor asked. Oh, right, if you didn't mention this, I would have forgotten. 9 to 5 and the others must have obtained supreme grade spiritual wood. Moreover, it was very likely that it was in the hands of that guy called Ling Xiao. Even if we can't find anything else, as long as we can get our hands on the 4,000-year-old tribulation fruit tree, it'll be a great harvest. The Earth Emperor said excitedly, but I haven't seen him since I entered Senior Ice's tomb. Maybe he's dead? The Shell Emperor said. That's impossible. That brat's life is tough. No, I have to find him. Once I find him, even if I can't get any other treasures in the end, this trip will be worth it. The more the Earth Emperor thought about it, the more he felt that Ling Xiao definitely had the spirit wood from 4 years ago. As far as he was concerned, it was a supreme grade item. At the very least, it could help him reach the reincarnation god level. At that point, he would have a god body and could begin his cultivation anew. These were just the basics. Only after obtaining the divine body could one begin to cultivate. That would be the real cultivation. I'll go with you, the Seashell Emperor said. The Earth Emperor wanted tribulation fruits, and so did the Seashell Emperor. A 4,000-year-old tribulation fruit tree would have at least a few hundred fruits. To any life-sizer, it was a supreme grade treasure. The two of them were just about to head out to look for Ling Xiao and the others. But then a figure suddenly appeared outside of the tomb they were in. It was so silent that they didn't even notice it until it was about 200 meters away. Who's there? The Seashell Emperor and the Earth Emperor said nervously. After all, quite a few experts had entered the tomb. Although they weren't weak, they didn't want to run into anyone stronger than them. When they saw who it was, they breathed sighs of relief. Weren't you looking for me? Well, here I am, delivering myself to your doorstep. The one who appeared at the entrance of the tomb was Ling Xiao. His expression was calm, as if he didn't fear them at all. He was facing off against 2 second-division life-seizers, and yet he was still as calm as a true expert. I can wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find you by chance. Who would have thought that you'd deliver yourself to my doorstep, kid? The Earth Emperor had only wanted to kill and steal, and hadn't done much research on Ling Xiao's rise in strength. The Seashell Emperor didn't say anything, but clearly didn't think much of Ling Xiao. After all, he was a second-division life-sizer with 90% of the power in his sea. He wasn't like Tianhai, Gizai, who relied on the power of others. He relied on his own cultivation, and was far stronger than that piece of trash Tianhai, Gizai. Deliver myself to your doorstep? He asked. What business do you have with me? Ling Xiao asked calmly. It was almost as if he didn't notice that the 2 life-seizers were trying to surround him and kill him. Now that he was stronger and had cultivated the 5-ghost secret magic, he really wanted to test it out on someone. Both the Earth Emperor and the Seashell Emperor were extremely powerful and would be perfect sparring partners. Of course, we're looking for you, the Earth Emperor said with a laugh. But we know you're a tough nut to crack. We won't waste words with you. We'll just kill you. The Earth Emperor laughed coldly. Kill me? Why do I get the feeling that you're about to die? Ling Xiao looked at the Earth Emperor, a mocking smile on his face. Truth be told, he really hadn't thought about killing the Earth Emperor. But since he wanted to kill him, there was no way he was going to show mercy. Even as he spoke, he moved. His body flashed, and he shot toward the Earth Emperor like a bolt of lightning. The reason he wanted to kill the Earth Emperor first was because of his escape technique. If he couldn't get rid of the bastard as soon as possible, it would be troublesome later. Don't look down on me, kid. The Earth Emperor was furious. Previously, Ling Xiao had treated him as the best choice for a breakthrough and tore a hole in him, causing him to suffer great humiliation. This time, Ling Xiao was going to target him again. He simply couldn't accept it. What are you shouting for? Just die quietly. Won't it be over? The Earth Emperor didn't even have time to make a move. A malicious ghost suddenly appeared in front of him. The malicious ghost didn't have a sword in its hand, but it had sharp claws. This claw was as fast as lightning. Ah! The Earth Emperor screamed. Although he dodged extremely quickly, half of his head was still grabbed. With his head shattered, how could he still be alive? The Earth Emperor fell to the ground, completely dead. Chapter 30-138. What's going on? Seeing the Earth Emperor killed by Ling Xiao in one move, the Seashell Emperor was shocked. Although he was much stronger than the Earth Emperor, he couldn't guarantee that he could kill him in one move. Wasn't this brat too strong? Was he really at the peak of the 18th level of hell at the first revolution of the Yin-Yang realm? Run! The Seashell Emperor's first thought was to run. He could tell that Ling Xiao was a vicious and merciless person. He wanted to kill and steal, so there was no way Ling Xiao would let him leave alive. Reverse seashell wall. The Seashell Emperor roared, and a huge seashell appeared in front of him, biting at Ling Xiao. As long as the upper and lower seashell closed, Ling Xiao wouldn't have a chance to kill him, even if he tried. The seashell wall was originally a life-saving move. By hiding inside, it could greatly increase one's defense, and he wouldn't have to worry about being killed. But now he wanted to use it to trap Ling Xiao, because when this move was used on him, there was no way he could move. The seashell wall swallowed Ling Xiao. The Seashell Emperor fled into the distance. Break! With a cold shout, Ling Xiao casually punched out. The seashell wall was smashed into pieces. In its frozen state, any defensive entity would be extremely weak. Ling Xiao was really glad that he had obtained a frost dragon beast soul. Evil ghost, die! The fierce evil ghost instantly caught up to the Seashell Emperor. The Seashell Emperor turned around in terror and punched out. This punch caused the water in the air to ripple as it blasted towards the malicious ghost. Surprisingly, the malicious ghost condensed from heavenly tribulation true essence was pushed back about 10 meters. The Seashell Emperor was one of the top cultivators in the second level of life seizing, so he wasn't weak at all. But what was the point of that? All it did was slow down the time of his death. 5 Ghost Secret Magic, Een Ghost, attack! A dark shadow appeared behind the Shell Emperor, and then a blood-red dagger directly stabbed into the Shell Emperor's back. The Seashell Emperor didn't even have time to react. So the evil ghost was just a cover. The one who really knew how to kill was this Een Ghost. How is that possible? How could I, the mighty Shell Emperor, die in the Sword Dynasty, where the 9 Supremes are the weakest? How could he die at the hands of a martial artist at the peak of the 18th level of hell in the first revolution of the Yin-Yang realm? I can't accept this. At this moment, his feelings were simply too complicated. He had schemed against others, but he had never thought that he would end up as the sacrificial lamb. This was something he had never thought of before. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed through the tomb. It picked up the storage rings of the Earth Emperor and the Shell Emperor and fled. Ling Xiao could not help sneering. To dare snatch food from the tiger's mouth, you're really not afraid of death. Chi, a beam of sword light, shot out from his fingertip and instantly traversed a distance of 100 meters. Then, blood splattered everywhere. A figure finally appeared, lying in a pool of blood. He seems to be a Sword Emperor level expert, but I don't know him. Ling Xiao looked at that face and sneered disdainfully. Then he took that person's storage ring. There were about 3 million mid-grade spiritual stones in the 3 storage rings, but there were no treasures. It seemed that these people had wandered around for a long time, but they had little ability. They looked down on the low-value items, and they couldn't get the high-value items. Further ahead, in the cemetery, it was a place that looked like a hall. There were many ancient weapons placed here, but unfortunately, most of them had lost their essence and were rusted. But that was not the point. The point was that Falling Moon, Dragon Elephant, and Domineering Blade were surrounded. They were surrounded by Heaven End King, Profound Formation Emperor, Elephant Man, and the 2 remaining Sword Emperors of Sword God Hull. The enemy had 3 second-level Life Seizers and 2 first-level Life Seizers. On Falling Moon's side, she was the only second-level Life Seizer. Dragon Elephant and Domineering Blade were only first-level Life Seizers. Therefore, the battle situation was extremely unfavorable for Falling Moon and the others. At this moment, Falling Moon was already seriously injured. She was attacked by Heaven End King and Profound Formation Emperor together and was no match for them. Dragon Elephant and Domineering Blade were also beaten until they vomited blood and fell to the ground. Elephant Man was indeed very strong. If he was alone, Dragon Elephant and Domineering Blade could deal with a second-level Life Sizer. But there were also 2 Sword Emperors on the enemy's side. After holding on for a long time, they finally couldn't hold on anymore. Domineering Blade suddenly roared. His whole body suddenly released a shocking amount of power. Although blood was pouring out of his body, his emotions were very high. Falling Moon, Dragon Elephant, you guys go. I'll stop them. Domineering Blade, don't. Knowing Domineering Blade, Falling Moon and Dragon Elephant naturally knew what he was going to do. Domineering Blade had cultivated an extremely vicious saber technique. This saber technique was very powerful, but to kill 1,000 enemies, he would lose 1,000 of his own. Basically, if the enemy died, he would die too. As Domineering Blade's voice rang out, countless saber energy was released from his body. These saber energy enveloped the entire hull. Go! Domineering Blade roared. Even if I die, I'll take someone down with me today. Falling Moon and Dragon Elephant looked at each other, finally made up their minds, and turned to leave. They couldn't waste Domineering Blade's good intentions. Domineering Blade, is this worth it? They've already given up on you and left. Even if you die, no one will know and no one will thank you. Tinjue King said loudly, Bullsh *T. Ever since I joined the 9 Defiance, I've already been prepared to sacrifice myself at any time. They've all done me a favor, and I'm ready to repay them now. I don't need anyone to remember me, nor do I need anyone to be grateful. What I want is a clear conscience. As he spoke, the saber energy in the hall became thicker. Tinjue King and the rest didn't look too good. They could feel the terrifying power contained in Domineering Blade's move. Once it was released, it would really make them feel very uncomfortable. Go to hell, you bastards! With a furious roar, Domineering Blade was finally going to release the move that he had been brewing for a long time. Pucci! However, at this moment, a sword pierced through Domineering Blade's body. The energy that was originally brewing instantly became chaotic, collapsed, and shattered. Domineering Blade looked back in despair. Standing behind him was Dugashiong. That's great, Your Highness! Tinjue King saw that it was Dugashiong and immediately heaved a sigh of relief. The saber energy dissipated, and the few of them all survived. Looking at Domineering Blade, who was already at his last breath, Tinjue King gnashed his teeth in hatred and ruthlessly kicked Domineering Blade's wound twice. Then he raised the sword in his hand. I'm going to hack you into 1,000 pieces and dismember your corpse into 1,000 pieces. Tinjue King roared viciously. His first sword was aimed at Domineering Blade's ear, really going to dismember Domineering Blade. But right at this time, Falling Moon and Dragon Elephant actually returned. Especially Falling Moon. Her speed was extremely fast, instantly blocking Tinjue King's long sword and protecting in front of Domineering Blade. She and Dragon Elephant didn't leave in the first place and had been hiding nearby to observe. Chapter 30, 139. Even though Yen Yu and Long Xiang returned, the dangerous situation did not change at all. The only thing worth rejoicing over was that Ba Dao still had 1 breath left. Ha 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 ha, fool. Just nice to finish off the 2 of you too. Seeing Yen Yu block his long sword, Tianju King was stunned for a moment, then immediately laughed wildly without ceasing. That might not be the case. A voice came from afar, and the speed was extremely fast. The sharp sword Qi approached from afar in an instant. Tianju King was frightened until he hurriedly brandished his sword to block, not daring to have the slightest neglect. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yan Yu moved Ba Dao to the side. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. The owner of the sword Qi was precisely Ling Xiao. How could it be you? Tianju King could not believe that the sword Qi that made him feel the threat of death just now actually came from Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao just gave him a cold glance. Immediately after, he swept his gaze over the mystic array Emperor, Xiangman, and the rest. He said coldly, "Today, none of you can leave here alive." While talking, he already arrived beside Ba Dao, fed him a healing pill, and then kept it directly into the beast ring to heal his injuries. Yan Yu and Long Xiang had already consumed the healing pill that Ling Xiao gave them previously, so they did not need it for the time being. "Sister Yan Yu, big brother Long Xiang, it's fine. With me around, no one can hurt you anymore." Ling Xiao would not let the friends he recognized suffer grievances. If anyone dared to bully them, he would definitely not show mercy. Ha 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 ha. Indeed arrogant and conceited, insufferably arrogant. With just you actually want to duel with a few of us? Tianju King laughed loudly, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. One had to know that not long ago, Ling Xiao was just a trash that he could crush at any time. How long had it been? It was only 3 days after entering the forbidden area. He really did not understand what medicine Ling Xiao ate wrong to actually say such arrogant and ridiculous words. "Ling Xiao, these people are too strong. Better escape first. Saving your life is the most important thing." Falling Moon reminded. Although she knew that Ling Xiao had become stronger, the current situation was very dangerous. Second Division Life Seizers included King Heaven End, the Profound Formation Emperor, Mammoth Barbarian, and the terrifying Duguxiong. And 2 of them were First Division Life Seizers. How could Ling Xiao possibly be a match for them? Even if she and Xiangman were to help, they would only be able to stall 2 people at most. "Sister Yanwen, I'm sorry. I've been hiding my strength all this time. Originally, I just didn't want to attract too much attention, but they actually tried to take our lives time and time again. Then I can only kill them." Ling Xiao smiled at Yan Yu. The strong confidence in his eyes infected Yan Yu and Xiangman. They no longer doubted Ling Xiao's choice. "Brat, I don't know where your confidence comes from, but this kind of confidence is nothing more than illusory arrogance. It's extremely foolish." King Heaven End sneered. "Even if you're a peerless genius, even if you can fight trash like the Earth Emperor, you're definitely not a match for me. Besides, I'm not the only Second Division life-sizer here today." King Heaven End felt that Ling Xiao was humiliating him. Among all the martial artists who entered the forbidden area, he was only weaker than the great sage of Poison and Duguxiong. He wasn't afraid of any of the others. Now that Ling Xiao had made it clear that he did not care about him at all, how could he not be angry? "Heaven End King, there's no need for you to personally deal with this little bastard. Just let me do it," a sword emperor from Sword God Hall said. "All right, I'll leave it to you." King Heaven End thought for a moment. Letting a sword emperor deal with Ling Xiao was already giving Ling Xiao a lot of face. Moreover, if the sword emperor was really no match for him, he could see what tricks Ling Xiao had up his sleeve. It would be a good reference. One move. Ling Xiao suddenly said, "What?" Before the sword emperor could understand what Ling Xiao meant, he suddenly found a jet of red blood spurting out from his throat. His consciousness quickly blurred. Throughout the whole process, Ling Xiao had only raised a finger. "Heaven End King, it's better if you do it. Letting that kind of trash fight is just a waste of your life." Ling Xiao mocked. "You want to fight Heaven End King? You're not worthy." This time, it wasn't the Sword Emperor who stepped forward, but the Profound Formation Emperor. The Profound Formation Emperor wasn't weak. He was a second division life-sizer expert who specialized in formations. The grudge between him and Ling Xiao was only because of the verbal dispute in front of Reverend Ice's tomb. He actually wanted to attack Ling Xiao's friends over such a small matter. Ling Xiao definitely wouldn't let him go. Since he wanted to fight, Ling Xiao didn't refuse. Heaven End King, Barbarian Elephant, please block these guys' escape route and let them escape like before. The profound formation Emperor reminded before he attacked. Obviously, he felt that he could easily suppress and kill Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao would definitely choose to escape. With me here, no one can escape here. Du Guxiong suddenly spoke. He had been sitting there with his eyes closed, as if he didn't care about the battle here at all. Hearing Du Guxiong's words, the profound formation Emperor finally relaxed. He looked at Ling Xiao with a ferocious expression. Kid, you can die. He didn't finish his words, because Ling Xiao had already attacked. At that moment, a sword light as fast as lightning pierced through Ling Xiao's body and stabbed towards him. The target was still his throat. The profound formation Emperor was shocked. This move was probably the killing move that killed the Sword Emperor just now. Just the sword chi was so terrifying. If it was used with a sword, wouldn't it be even more heaven-defying? Indestructible Vajra formation. Even the profound formation Emperor was scared out of his wits. He had no choice but to throw out a formation refining stone. Originally, he had planned to use it to deal with peak 2nd Division life seizers. But now he had no choice. As soon as the formation refining stone was thrown out, his body was instantly covered by a golden light. The sword chi hit the golden light, and sparks flew. Indestructible Vajra formation. Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed slightly. Although the sword chi just now wasn't too strong, it was more than enough to kill the Xian Array Emperor. As long as it hit him, he would be dead. However, he didn't expect his opponent to have a formation refining stone like he did. Ha ha ha, kid, your attack really shocked me. But I have the indestructible Vajra formation. What can you do to me? The profound formation Emperor laughed loudly. My defense is absolutely invincible among martial artists of the same cultivation base. Your cultivation base is at most first-level life-sizer. There's no way you can break through my defense. Although he said that the profound formation Emperor was actually sweating in his heart. Chapter 3140. Xian Formation Emperor did not understand. Not long ago, Ling Xiao was only at the first turn of the yin-yang stage. How did he become so powerful all of a sudden? Is it the so-called invincible defense again? The last person who said something like that is now a corpse. Ling Xiao looked at Xian Formation Emperor and said, sarcastically, You have an array to strengthen your defense. Do you think I don't have an array to strengthen my attack? Metal array. Ling Xiao smiled coldly. He actually had many ways to break the indestructible Vajra array. But today he wanted to meet force with force. Only by meeting force with force and breaking the opponent's defense would he be more intimidating and make the enemy fear him. Once fear was born, the enemy would not be able to use all of his strength. Heavenly Flame Sword Art. Fiery rain burst. Under the powerful amplification of the metal array, the terrifying fiery rain, sword chi burst out. Countless sword chi hit the indestructible Vajra array like raindrops. Xian Formation Emperor could clearly feel that his indestructible Vajra array was beginning to become a little unstable. There was a crisis that was about to collapse. Oh no! Tianjua King, come and save me! Xian Formation Emperor was an expert, so he knew how terrifying Ling Xiao's attack was. If no one came to save him, he would be dead. In fact, there was no need for him to shout for help. Someone had already come to help. It was impossible for the Heaven Extreme Monarch to watch the Black Array Emperor die. Xian Formation Emperor had always been the focus of Heavenly Sword Hall. An expert proficient in array was extremely important to Heavenly Sword Hall. Therefore, he absolutely could not allow Xian Formation Emperor to die here. The first move was the Tianju's sword qi. The sharp sword qi turned into a flash of light and instantly pierced towards Ling Zhao's throat. Ding! The demonic dragon sword appeared in Ling Zhao's hand and easily blocked and destroyed the sword qi. Ling Xiao, let me help you. Yan Yu is ready to make a move. Sister Yan Yu, brother Long Xiang, you don't have to do anything. Help me keep an eye on Duguxiong. He almost killed Brother Badao. I will not allow him to leave here alive. Yan Yu and Long Xiang might not be Duguxiong's opponent, but they were absolutely confident in holding Duguxiong. All right. When Falling Moon heard Ling Zhao's words, she knew that Ling Xiao did not need help for the time being. Thus, she and Long Xiang followed his instructions and kept a close eye on Duguxiong. Duguxiong still had a look of disdain on his face, completely ignoring the situation here. It was as if he had turned a deaf ear to Ling Zhao's words. It was as if he felt that Ling Xiao had said the funniest joke in the world, causing his lips to curl into a contemptuous smile. Escape? Are you worthy? Duguxiong sneered inwardly. Absolute sky sword rain. When Tianjue King saw that his sky Ju sword qi was actually unable to cause any damage to Ling Xiao, he immediately became anxious. He went berserk and used his strongest move. Not only did this move have a huge range, but all the attacks could also be focused on a single point. Although the power of each sword qi was not as strong as the previous Sky Extinction sword qi, the combined attack was much more terrifying. Xian Formation Fist. Taking advantage of Heaven Extreme King's attack, Black Array Emperor also got a chance to catch his breath. Previously, he was almost killed by Ling Xiao. Now he could finally fight back. This Xian Formation Fist contained the profundity of formations and was extremely powerful. When it was blasted out, if it was an ordinary second-tier life-sizer, they would probably feel that they could not withstand it and retreat in fear. The two of them were Sword Emperors and second-tier life-seizers. Yet, they had to use their strongest killing move to kill a first-tier life-sizer. Moreover, this martial artist was just an insignificant person in their eyes not long ago. However, in the face of the two's ferocious attacks, Ling Zhao's face was still as calm as an ancient well. The demon dragon sword in his hand burned with a ferocious strange fire that was several meters long. The terrifying flame was like a fire demon. The blazing energy was constantly being released to the surroundings. Then, in an instant, it was completely absorbed into the demon dragon sword as if it was being rapidly compressed. Strange Flame Sword Art Ultimate Skill. Strange Flame, Sword Demon. A terrifying move was finally unleashed. This sword directly hit Black Array Emperor's indestructible Vajra formation. Boom! The terrifying force impacted the periphery. The people standing on the periphery were actually sent flying by this force. Dragon Elephant, Elephant Barbarian, and Falling Moon could not easily deal with this terrifying force. The only remaining Sword Emperor of Sword God Hall was directly torn to pieces by this force in the void. After all, they were the ones being targeted. Endless Strange Fire, with the ground as a conductor, actually formed a fan shape and rushed in front of Ling Xiao rapidly. Black Array Emperor and Heavenly King could be said to be the first to bear the brunt. The two of them felt the terror of this force and no longer had the slightest thought of risking their lives. They turned around and fled. Black Array Emperor's indestructible Vajra formation was instantly torn apart by this terrifying strange flame, sword demon. Then his entire body was completely burned, and he died on the spot in an instant. As for Heavenly King, he did not have it easy either. The situation was extremely embarrassing. He spat out a mouthful of flaming blood from his mouth, and his face was pale. Prince Dugu, quickly do something. Heavenly King panicked. He wanted Duguxiong to save him. Unfortunately, Duguxiong was stopped by Falling Moon and Dragon Elephant. Heavenly King never thought that he would be humiliated to such an extent by a guy who was not even 17 years old. This was definitely a great humiliation. If word got out, his name, Heavenly King, would be completely ruined. But at this moment, he had no time to think so much. Just staying alive was already very difficult. Absolutely no one can save you today. Die. Malicious spirit, kill. Ling Xiao controlled the demonic dragon sword again, but his left hand blasted out a palm. A ball of heavenly tribulation vital essence was released from his body, turning into a malicious spirit, and instantly penetrated Heavenly King's body. Uft! Heavenly King's head was actually directly blown apart. One of the 5 emperors of Sword God Hall died in the hands of an unknown person. 1 person against 2 Sword Emperor level experts, and he actually killed both of them at the same time. Ling Xiao's terror had already exceeded everyone's expectations. Barbarian Xiang turned around and was about to escape, but Dragon Elephant had already rushed over. He was no match for Barbarian Xiang, but he could still stop him for a while. You actually killed Heavenly King. Do you know the consequences? When Duguxiong saw this scene, he was simply incomparably shocked. Although Heavenly King was inferior to him, he was not far off. As one of the 5 emperors of Sword God Hall, it was absolutely impossible for him to die so easily. But today he just had to die. And he actually died so straightforwardly. So what if I killed him? Don't tell me I should wait for him to kill me. You should be more worried about your own life now, not him. Ling Xiao looked at Duguxiong indifferently and said. The situation instantly reversed. Duguxiong's side had the absolute advantage just now. But the situation completely changed after Ling Xiao killed Heavenly King and Mystic Array Emperor. Sister Falling Moon, go and help Brother Dragon Elephant eliminate Barbarian Xiang. That's an unstable factor. I'll deal with Duguxiong. Chapter 30, 141. Your dead meat. The Tianjue King is one of the people my father values the most. As one of the 5 emperors of the Heavenly Sword Hall, he has made great contributions to the Heavenly Sword Hall. If you kill him, my father will be in trouble. No one can save you. Duguxiong took out his sword and looked at Ling Xiao coldly. I won't kill you today. I'll bring you back alive and let my father deal with you. You can't kill me. Ling Xiao shook his head as he entered the Ice Blast WYRM, Beast Soul, transformation state. In this Ice Venerable's tomb, the Frost Dragon Beast Soul transformation had the greatest enhancement. Of course, other than the everlasting Heavenly Rat. However, Duguxiong was not qualified to make Ling Xiao use the everlasting Heavenly Rat Beast Soul transformation. Arrogant, Duguxiong was one of the 5 emperors of the Heavenly Sword Hall. Among the 5 emperors, he was the strongest. Moreover, he was the son of the Heavenly Sword Hall. What he could not accept the most was that a commoner like Ling Xiao could be compared to his talent. His sword was very fast. Suddenly, a huge crack appeared in the void. The sword martial soul behind him was roaring crazily. Not worth mentioning. Ling Xiao swung his demon dragon sword at the same time. The same crack spread out and collided with Duguxiong's sword mark. As a result, a huge crack appeared on the ground. The surrounding walls were also constantly shaking. Fortunately, the laws here were very strong. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. The entire Ice Venerable's tomb would probably collapse because of a battle of this level. What? Duguxiong never expected that Ling Xiao's attack could be so powerful that it could contend with his attack. Are you surprised? That's because you're ignorant. Ling Xiao mocked. You'll be even more surprised with the next move. Ling Xiao put away his demon dragon sword and began to circulate his tribulation true origin. A ghost shadow appeared in front of him. This ghost shadow was taller than the malicious ghost, the Een ghost, and the female ghost. The moment he appeared, the entire tomb was filled with ghostly wails and howls. Ghost King of the 5 Ghosts secret technique. The huge ghost shadow instantly appeared in front of Duguxiong. In his shock, Duguxiong used his strongest skill and stabbed his sword at the Ghost King. However, with his current strength, he was already unable to suppress Ling Xiao. Whether it was in terms of experience, combat skills, or the tyrannical degree of heavenly tribulation true essence, he was inferior to Ling Xiao. It was also a medium general realm martial art. Even though Dugu Xiong's swordsmanship was already at the mastery level, he could not withstand the 5 ghost secret technique that had reached the minor mastery level. Crack! The sword in Dugu Xiong's hand actually broke. At this moment, he finally knew what fear was. It was definitely not a coincidence that Ling Xiao was able to kill the Heaven Extreme King and the Profound Array Emperor. This guy really had that kind of terrifying strength. All of his pride and confidence collapsed at this moment. He actually turned around and fled. Ling Xiao, you'd better let me leave obediently. Otherwise, the anger of my heavenly sword hall will burn you and your friends to ashes. Dugu Xiong roared as he fled, hoping that the prestige of the heavenly sword hall could intimidate Ling Xiao. In that case, he wouldn't have to fight to the death with Ling Xiao. His attack was actually not worth mentioning in front of Ling Xiao. This was too frightening. Are you an idiot? I killed the Heaven Extreme King. Dugu Beijian definitely won't let me go. Since it's already like this, killing one more doesn't seem to be a big deal. Ling Xiao ridiculed, but his hands did not stop attacking. The terrifying black sword qi mixed with the strange fire hit Dugu Xiong. But Dugu Xiong did not seem to be injured at all. You actually have a high-quality Emperor-level defensive magic treasure on you. Ling Xiao revealed a look of surprise. Generally speaking, defensive magic treasures were very rare and more precious than offensive magic treasures. This was because a defensive magic treasure of the same level could completely withstand the destructive power of an offensive magic treasure of the same level. You understand now, right? You can't kill me. As long as I continue to escape, I can always find someone who can help me. Dugu Xiong relied on the high-quality Emperor-level defensive magic treasure and finally regained a bit of confidence. However, he still did not dare to stop and fight with Ling Xiao. He could only desperately escape. I'll kill whoever dares to help you. Since I've already killed the Heaven Extreme King and the Profound Array Emperor, I don't mind killing a few more. Ling Xiao had already hardened his heart. He absolutely could not let Dugu Xiong escape from the forbidden area alive. Otherwise, if the sword god Dugu Beijian really knew what happened here, it would definitely be very troublesome. Perhaps Dugu Beijian would not put down his face to personally hunt down a Heaven Extreme King. But if Dugu Xiong was added, it might not be the case. Moreover, even if Dugu Beijian did not make a move, Dugu Xingjian would not let the matter rest. Therefore, he must kill Dugu Xiong. This was self-protection, and it was also something that had to be done. Although Dugu Xiong's aptitude was not as talented as Dugu Xingjian, it was definitely 1 in a million. For Dugu Beijian, he definitely had to be nurtured. In Dugu Beijian's heart, this kid's position was definitely higher than that Heaven Extreme King. Therefore, he could not let this guy out even more. He was not naive enough to think that after letting Dugu Xiong go, this guy would say good things about him to Dugu Beijian. F***CK, you're simply a lunatic. You've already killed the Heaven Extreme King, and now you want to kill me. Even the 9 Defiants will definitely not be able to protect you. You're dead meat. Dugu Xiong roared. At the very least, you won't be able to see that scene because you'll definitely die in front of me. Ling Xiao mocked. That's not necessarily true. This move is a consummate skill that my father personally passed down to me. It's a consummate skill that only Xingjian and I can learn. Emperor Overlord Sword. Dugu Xiong knew that his speed was not as fast as Ling Xiao. He was getting closer and closer to Ling Xiao. Along the way, he did not encounter anyone. He simply stopped and gathered the most powerful attack that he could currently unleash. His sword was already broken, but it didn't matter. He still had the heavenly tribulation true essence to condense into a powerful overlord sword. The fusion of this Overlord sword and sword martial spirit was the Emperor Overlord sword that was enough to destroy everything. The destructive sword intent constantly surged and boiled in this Overlord sword. It was as if it wanted to destroy everything in the world. Everything you're doing now is futile. Ling Xiao smiled coldly. The Ghost King condensed again, but this time black patterns actually appeared on the Ghost King's body. It was obvious that its aura was stronger than before. 5 Ghosts Mystic Technique, Ghost King, Expert Realm. After repeatedly using the 5 Ghosts Mystic Technique to attack the enemy, he consecutively killed several Sword Emperor level experts. Ling Xiao's 5 Ghosts Mystic Technique finally advanced from small success to expert. The Ghost King, who was proficient in Realm, was even more powerful. Combined with the terrifying power of Ling Xiao's Frost Dragon Beast Spirit transformation, the Ghost King's claws easily blocked Duguxiong's Emperor Overlord sword. Even if it's an emperor, it has to enter the cycle of life and death. My Ghost King is justice. Chapter 30, 142. Bang! Duguxiong was sent flying like a sharp arrow, crashing into a thick layer of ice. Although he had a high-quality Emperor-level defensive treasure, Duguxiong still spat out a mouthful of blood. Obviously, his body had been injured by the huge force. Even the defensive magical treasure had cracks on it. How could this be? Duguxiong felt the cracks on his defensive treasure and knew that he couldn't stay here any longer. Although the defensive treasure was powerful, it also consumed a lot of true energy. That was because he had to use a lot of true energy to maintain the effect of the defensive treasure. The reason why the defensive treasure was cracked was because Ling Xiao's attack was really powerful. The key was that Duguxiong had used too much true energy and was about to lose the effect of the defensive treasure. Defensive treasures are good. But didn't your father teach you? Don't use it recklessly if you don't have enough true energy. Ling Xiao sneered and controlled the Ghost King to attack continuously. In that instant, the Ghost King punched out a total of 10 times. Every fist strike he unleashed was powerful enough to kill an ordinary 2nd Division life-sizer. Duguxiong was able to survive until now not only because of the defensive treasure, but also because of his strength. But now he was about to lose. This was because his heavenly tribulation Triyuan was almost exhausted. The defensive layer released by the defensive treasure was cracking inch by inch. Don't kill me. I'll do anything you want. Duguxiong never thought that he would beg for mercy from a guy he didn't even care about. Ling Xiao was too scary. He had no choice but to beg for mercy. When you attacked Big Brother Domineering Saber, you didn't hold back either. Ling Xiao said coldly. As he spoke, the Ghost King's huge fist punched down again. It was aimed directly at Duguxiong's head. Without his defensive magic treasure, Duguxiong would most likely end up with his head split open when faced with this terrifying punch. At that moment, Duguxiong was filled with despair and regret. He had underestimated his opponent. If he had joined forces with the Heaven End King and the Black Formation Emperor from the beginning, he wouldn't be in this situation now. I can't dodge. Am I going to die? Duguxiong roared, venting his strong unwillingness. Rumble. Duguxiong's defensive magic treasure had been completely destroyed, and his head had almost caved in. He was about to die on the spot. Suddenly, a beam of sword light shot out from Duguxiong's forehead. The sword beam managed to block the Ghost King's punch and even tore the Ghost King apart. What? Ling Xiao was stunned. He actually saw an unfamiliar figure within the sword light. Although he didn't know who it was, that fellow was incomparably powerful. Father! Duguxiong seemed very surprised as well. Father's sword intent had been residing in his soul realm all this time. Imperial Father? Could it be the sword god Dugubajian? Ling Xiao frowned, and his face turned ugly. He had seen something like this before. It was a strand of the will of a king of sovereigns. However, this was an extremely thin will, and because the king of sovereigns was so far away, it couldn't unleash its true power. However, this sword intent was different. This sword intent was very strong. It was obvious that the sword god had done it on purpose. Moreover, the sword god was waiting in the sword dynasty. The distance was very close, and the sword intent could unleash its full power. Ling Xiao gritted his teeth and entered the unbounded heavenly rat's beast soul transformation form. Then he circulated the heavenly tribulation vital energy and released the heavenly fire sword demon in an attempt to use this stronger attack to shatter the sword intent. However, it was useless. Not only did the sword intent not shatter, it was extremely stable and didn't show any signs of moving. Ha ha ha, Ling Xiao, you're finished. If you can't kill me today, you'll die in the future. However, after killing the Heavenly King, I'm afraid you won't live to see me again. Duge Xiong had recovered from his despair. With his father's sword intent protecting him, he wasn't afraid of anyone. There was no one in the entire sword dynasty who could kill him. Today you must die. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with ruthless killing intent. So what if it's the sword intent of the sword god? I spent so much effort to protect a piece of trash like you, but you'll still die in my hands. A dark and boundless universe appeared behind Ling Xiao. The aura of the Sky Tyrant martial soul began to be released wildly. Ling Xiao definitely couldn't let Duge Xiong leave. Anyway, there was no one else here. He wanted to use the power of the Sky Tyrant martial soul to kill this kid. Sky Tyrant Ghost King. The Ghost King came from the boundless universe. He was no longer condensed from the heavenly tribulation vital energy, but a true Sky Tyrant god with a soul. His huge body descended, and he slapped out with his palm. The sword god's sword intent was actually smashed into pieces. Duge Xiong didn't even have time to say anything before his body was once again occupied by despair and fear. Then an unstoppable and terrifying power flattened him into a meat paste. Another 5 emperors had fallen. So far, 2 of the 5 emperors of the Sword God Hall had been killed by Ling Xiao. It could be said to be a heavy loss, especially since Duge Xiong was a genius. His future value would far surpass the Heavenly King. It had to be said that dying here was definitely a huge loss for the Sword God Hall. Ling Xiao scooped up Duge Xiong's storage ring and defensive Dharma treasure. Then he burned Duge Xiong's body with a strange fire. When he returned to the previous battlefield, Barbarian Xiang had just fallen to the ground. He was killed by Falling Moon and Long Xiang. At this point, Earth Emperor, Shell Emperor, Black Formation Emperor, Heavenly King, Duge Xiong, and Tianhai Onishi. These 6 Sword Emperor level powerhouses had all died in the hands of Ling Xiao. If Barbarian Xiang, who was killed by Falling Moon and Long Xiang, was added to the 7 people. If this news were to spread, it would probably alarm the entire world. Moreover, so many experts from the Sword God Hall had all fallen here. This time, it could be said to be a heavy loss. No matter what, after we go out, the Sword God Hall will probably blame this on us. So, everyone has to be careful. Ling Xiao was very clear that in the situation where they couldn't find the real culprit, the Sword God Hall would definitely attack their enemies first. 9 and I had always been looking for trouble with the Sword God Hall. The possibility of being targeted was the highest. Let's not talk about this first. Keep these things. Long Xiang gave the storage rings of Barbarian Xiang, Heavenly King, and Black Formation Emperor to Ling Xiao. However, Ling Xiao shook his head and said, Barbarian Xiang is a traitor of the Dragon Elephant tribe after all. You should keep this storage ring. He wanted the other storage rings because he was the one who killed those people. Falling Moon and Long Xiang didn't have any objections, because they knew that if Ling Xiao hadn't appeared in time today, not to mention Ba Dao, even the 2 of them would have died together. Although Ba Dao was seriously injured now, he wasn't dead after all. They had also escaped safely. This was actually the best gift. What else could they hope for? Chapter 30, 143. 1,000,000 mid-grade spirit stones per person. This was not a small amount. The reason why he did this was not because Ling Xiao was so great. The key was that if Long Xiang and Yan Yu did not hold Duguxiong back just now, he would not have been so relaxed. Blood brothers should settle accounts clearly. He definitely had to give the benefits that he should give. Of course, in these storage rings, other than the spirit stones, the most precious thing was a high-quality emperor-level, defensive magic treasure in Duguxiong's storage ring. There was also a handwritten Emperor Hegemon sword technique. This Emperor Hegemon sword was also a mid-level general-level martial art, the same as the Five Ghosts secret method. However, it was obviously more suitable for Ling Xiao. After all, Ling Xiao had always been known for his sword skills. The Five Ghosts secret method could continue to be used, but the Emperor Hegemon sword could also be learned first. In any case, this thing only had one move, so it would not take much time. The three of them were cleaning up the battlefield when suddenly Ling Xiao frowned. "Let's go, someone is coming." When Ling Xiao was using the Tyrant martial soul, he was very concerned about the surrounding situation, so he had been releasing his soul power. It was combined with the Tai Chi eye to observe. About 1,000 meters away from them, a figure appeared. They had to leave quickly. "Who is it?" On the way out, Yan Yu asked. "Poison Great Sage." Ling Xiao frowned and said, "I don't know if this Poison Great Sage can discover that Duguxiong and Tinjua King have been killed. Although he is no longer a member of the Heavenly Sword Hall, he is still a member of the royal family." Not long after they left, a figure slowly appeared at the place where the battle had just taken place. As expected, there was a battle here just now. The Poison Great Sage frowned. The air was filled with a burnt smell. It was obvious that the dead side had been burned to remove the traces. Anyone could have done it with mortal fire, so it was impossible to determine who did it. How could this be? Originally, whoever died had little to do with him, but when he was about to leave, he smelled a familiar scent. Although it was very weak, the Poison Great Sage felt that he could not be mistaken. Duguxiong! How could he? The Poison Great Sage's expression instantly darkened. Although he had lost to Duguxiong, he was still a member of the imperial family. Duguxiong was his nephew. It was impossible for him to ignore Duguxiong's death. Originally, he had only come to the forbidden area to find something that could help him break through. But now he had another goal. That was the person who had found Duguxiong in the desert. "He's very strong," Yang Qi thought. "He's already at the peak of the 2nd division of the life-seizing level." Could it be that someone who killed Duguxiong was a 3rd division life-sizer? But among the people who came this time, there is no such warrior. The great sage of poison couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. He could only shake his head and continue forward. He believed that a fox would eventually show its tail. Some other martial artists finally appeared in front of them. However, there was still no sign of the Baifeng. Everyone was worried, but there was no point in worrying. They could only pray that the Baifeng was fine. A huge moat appeared in front of them. The strangest thing was that the water flowing in the moat was actually boiling hot lava. The lava flowed through the ice, but the ice didn't melt and the lava didn't freeze. It was a very strange sight. Everyone could feel that the surrounding temperature was constantly rising. "It's too strange. How can the magma and the ice coexist?" Falling Moon asked. "There must be some kind of treasure here," Yang Qi said. "Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a strange phenomenon." Ling Xiao analyzed the situation. "Let's go take a look." Draco Mammoth said excitedly. Treasures were his favorite. Yeah. The three of them continued onward until they reached the source of the moat. There was a huge fountain there, but what came out of the fountain wasn't water, but magma. There were many people standing around the fountain, all of whom had already guessed that there was some kind of treasure below. However, none of them had made a move yet, most likely because the lava was too hot. "It's Big Bro Bai Fong." Ling Xiao's eyes were sharp, and he immediately saw the Bai Fong sitting in the lava, cultivating. To the Bai Fong, lava at this level was way too rare. He had just broken through to the first level of the life-seizing realm, and he felt like he was about to break through again. Sure enough, the Forbidden Zone was like that. You either died or made a fortune. After entering the Forbidden Zone, it wasn't impossible to break through several levels in a row, as long as you were lucky and found some kind of treasure. This was also the reason why the Forbidden Lands were so popular. "You guys are here. Where's Domineering Blade?" The Bai Fong opened his eyes when he saw Ling Xiao and the others. "Domineering Blade is injured. He's resting in my beast ring." Ling Xiao replied, "I know you have a lot of questions, Big Brother Bai Fong, but this isn't the place to talk. Let's not talk about that first." He couldn't reveal that he had killed Heaven End King and Duguxiong. Otherwise, the great sage of poison wouldn't let him go. Ling Xiao might be brave, but he wasn't stupid. It wasn't impossible for him to defeat the great sage of poison, but he would have to pay a huge price. It wasn't worth it. "All right, then I won't ask." Knowing that Domineering Blade wasn't dead, the Bai Fong was relieved. "Too bad the lava outside isn't strong enough. I almost broke through, but I couldn't. I wonder what will happen after I enter the fountain. Is there something in the fountain?" Ling Xiao asked. "Yes, I heard it's an earth spirit fruit." The Bai Fong replied. "Are you sure it's an earth spirit fruit?" Ling Xiao suddenly became excited. "It shouldn't be wrong. There's an expert here who can see what's going on under the fountain. It's a genuine earth spirit fruit about 5,000 years old. This magma is precisely erupting from the earthly spirit fruit." The Bai Fong replied, "Is the earth spirit fruit good?" Long Xiang couldn't help asking, as he wasn't familiar with these things. "Of course it's good. An earth spirit fruit that's more than 1,000 years old can make an ordinary person's body seem to have cultivated a beginner general level defensive martial art. 2,000 years is equivalent to a mid-level general level. 3 years is equivalent to an advanced general level. 4,000 years is equivalent to a peak general level. Consuming a 5,000-year-old earth spirit fruit directly can make a martial artist's body as strong as a beginner king level defensive martial art. I'm afraid that in terms of defense alone, it's invincible in the 9 Supremes." Ling Xiao explained. "That's right, I've heard of this too. I'm afraid those people can't wait to snatch this 5,000-year-old earth spirit fruit. No wonder they're all gathered here." Yin Yu nodded. Of course. Ling Xiao wasn't the only one who knew about the earth spirit fruit. One could find it in a book as long as one looked it up. When the temptation reached a certain level, one would become a demon. Chapter 30, 144. They all want the earth spirit fruit. But the way I see it, only second division life seizers will fight over it. Beautiful Orchid, Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix, Emperor Tortoiseshell from the Myriad Kingdoms, Emperor Ice Serpent from the Black Snake Sect, and Painted Plum Fairy from the Dazzling Palace. Falling Moon looked over at the crowd and saw some people she hadn't seen before. Ling Xiao could sense that Emperor Tortoiseshell was stronger than Emperor Seashell and was very close to the 3rd division of life seizing. Emperor Ice Serpent and Painted Plum Fairy were a bit weaker, but were still on the same level as King Heaven End. Don't forget, there's still the Great Sage of Poison. Even he wants the Earth Spirit Fruit. Dragon Mammoth warned. That's right, Yang Qi said. Other than the Great Sage of Poison, no one else is a threat. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take advantage of the fact that he's not here yet. I wonder if my brothers and sisters would be willing to help me with this? Ling Xiao asked. Of course, Falling Moon said. If it weren't for you, Dragon Mammoth and I would already be dead. Our lives are yours. Falling Moon nodded. The Bai Fong was a little surprised. Usually, Falling Moon worshipped the 9 Defiance leader very much. This time, she actually didn't think of snatching the Earth Spirit Fruit and giving it to the 9 Defiance leader. And how did Ling Xiao save Falling Moon and Dragon Mammoth? He was completely confused. Of course, he had no idea that Ling Xiao had killed King Heavenend, the Profound Formation Emperor, and even Duguxiong. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that Ling Xiao would become so strong after just breaking through to the life-seizing level. "I'll do as you say," Bai Feng said, nodding. "But Ling Xiao, if you eat the meat, you have to let me drink the soup. I want to use this opportunity to break through." "Don't worry about that, big brother Bai Feng," Yang Qi said. "I'll help you," Ling Xiao said. "Thank you so much." Bai Feng said excitedly. "Old Bai," Dragon Mammoth said, frowning, "you really shouldn't have asked for that. Ling Xiao has done us a great favor." "It's fine. It's not a big deal." Ling Xiao waved his hand and smiled. "I'm not going to wait. If you don't want it, I'll take it." The reason why everyone didn't make a move was because they were afraid of the lava spewing out from the Earth Spirit Fruit. It was at this point that one of the 2nd Division Life Seizers couldn't hold back any longer. Everyone wanted to become stronger, and so did he. If he could get his hands on the Earth Spirit Fruit and consume it, his strength would instantly skyrocket, and he would become the first in the 9 Supremes. Who would dare to bully him? That person roared and charged straight into the lava fountain, heading for the Earth Spirit Fruit below. However, when he was about 10 meters away from the fruit, the 2nd Life Sizer let out a miserable shriek. Then it instantly turned into a pool of pus and fused into the magma. The lava within 10 meters of the Earth Spirit Fruit is of the level of strange flame. Even a reincarnation God-level expert would have a hard time dealing with it, let alone a 2nd Division Life Sizer. Ling Xiao frowned. He had been keeping his Taiji eye open the entire time, so when the Life Sizer died, he was able to analyze the lava in the area. Then what should we do? Wouldn't we be unable to obtain the Earth Spirit Fruit? Falling Moon frowned. Of course there's a way. All you need is a magical treasure that can defend against strange flames. Furthermore, some people cultivate special martial arts that can defend against strange flames for a certain period of time. Ling Xiao himself possessed a heavenly flame, so he knew very well that not to mention a heavenly flame, even an immortal flame or divine flame, was not invincible. There were many ways to deal with strange flames. The death of the 1st Life Sizer didn't frighten anyone. In fact, many people were eager to try. The first to charge into the lava was the Ice Snake Emperor from the Black Snake sect. His body was covered in a thick layer of ice crystals. Surprisingly, it was also of the strange flame level. No wonder he wasn't afraid. After the Ice Snake Emperor, the Painted Plum Fairy charged in as well. She had a talisman that could repel fire, so the lava couldn't get close to her. Next was the Tortoiseshell Emperor. The Tortoiseshell Emperor was covered in a thick turtle shell that was impervious to fire and water. Seeing that everyone was going down, the experts from the Sword Dynasty couldn't wait any longer. Orchid Devil, surrounded by terrifying devil energy, also charged in. Next was the Gold Phoenix Emperor, who also seemed to have a magical treasure that could repel fire. With these experts taking the lead, the others wanted to join in as well. What if they got the Earth Spirit Fruit? No one wanted to be a servant for the rest of their lives. Let's not wait any longer. Let's go down too. Ling Xiao transformed into a 3-headed lava, hound beast soul. This transformation could prevent him from being burned by the lava, and he could also absorb energy from it. The 3-headed lava hound's level wasn't high enough, so Ling Xiao hadn't used it in a long time. However, this was a chance for the 3-headed lava hound to level up. The Immortal Bird Bai Feng followed Ling Xiao down. Dragon Elephant, you stay up here and keep watch. I'm going down too. Falling Moon was one of the top 2nd level Life Seizers. If others could go, so could she. However, Dragon Elephant wasn't strong enough to play the hero. All right. Although he was unwilling, Dragon Elephant had no choice but to stay up and watch. At this point, the Ice Snake Emperor, who had been the first to enter the lava, was already within 10 meters of the fruit. Although the strange flame level lava was terrifying, his ice crystals were also strange flame level. Although he was under a lot of pressure, he wasn't burned to death like the previous guy. Everyone was pleasantly surprised when they saw this scene. It seemed that the heavenly flame level magma was not unbeatable. Ha ha ha, this earth spirit fruit belongs to the Black Snake sect. Laughing, the Ice Snake Emperor sped up. But how could the people behind him allow him to get the fruit? From a distance, Lon Mimi threw out a punch. The Devil Killer fist became hot in the lava, and it slammed into the Ice Snake Emperor's back. The Ice Snake Emperor's ice crystal body armor was used to defend against the deviant fire magma. Naturally, it was unable to defend against Lon Mimi's devil-killing fist. He had no choice but to turn around and punch out with both fists. Powerful streams of energy slammed into each other. The Ice Snake Emperor hurriedly jumped out of the lava's range. Bastard, Orchid Devil, how dare you attack me? Don't forget that I'm from the Black Snake sect. Don't tell me your puny sword dynasty doesn't want to exist in this world. The Ice Snake Emperor was furious. How could he not be angry when he was about to get what he wanted? Why wouldn't I dare? Who cares about the Black Snake sect if I get the Earth Spirit fruit? Orchid Devil snorted coldly. The allure of the Earth Spirit fruit was too great. It was enough to make people lose their minds. While they were talking, the Painted Plum Fairy and the Tortoise Emperor started fighting. No one was willing to give up the Earth Spirit fruit. In an instant, the lava turned into a battlefield. Before they got the fruit, someone was already killed. Chapter 30, 145. Big Brother by Fong. Hide off to the side and cultivate. Don't get involved in this fight. Seeing that the fighting was about to begin, Ling Xiao said to the Baifong, as long as the Baifong made a breakthrough, it would be of great help. But now was not the time. Given the Baifong's cultivation base, it would be killed in a matter of minutes. Understood. The Baifong knew that it wasn't strong enough, so it retreated to the edge of the lava fountain and began to cultivate. The martial artists only cared about those near the Earth Spirit fruit, and didn't care about the Baifong who was far away. After the Baifong left, Ling Xiao and Falling Moon moved closer to the Earth Spirit fruit. At this time, Lon May Devil looked back at Ling Xiao and said coldly, Second Life Seizers are fighting over something, and some ignorant fool wants to get involved. There's only one Earth Spirit fruit, and there are more than 30 people here. I'm afraid there's no way to split it. Her words were obviously directed at Ling Xiao. However, Ling Xiao didn't care. His eyes were fixed on the Earth Spirit fruit, and he was thinking about how to get it in the face of so many experts. That's right. How did a first stratum life-sizer get in here? At this time, the Tortoiseshell Emperor saw Ling Xiao, and his eyes were filled with disdain and malice. Ling Xiao was certain that as long as he continued to approach, he would definitely be attacked by the crowd. After all, in terms of strength, he was the weakest of the group. There was no doubt about that. However, he didn't care. If anyone dared to get in his way, he would show them what it meant to overestimate one's strength. As long as he could harden his heart and kill 1 or 2 second stratum life seizers, he was confident that he could intimidate everyone. He had to take advantage of the fact that the great sage of poison hadn't arrived yet. Once he did, the Earth Spirit fruit would be his. With that thought, Ling Xiao sped up toward the Earth Spirit fruit. Falling Moon followed closely behind, acting as support. For a second stratum life-sizer to do this, it was clear that Ling Xiao's strength had been fully acknowledged by Falling Moon. Kid, it looks like you really don't want to live. Suddenly, the Tortoiseshell Emperor appeared from the side. This guy had long recognized that Ling Xiao was weaker than the rest, so he had to pick the weakest persimmon to pinch. Moreover, he had heard from others that Ling Xiao seemed to have some kind of spiritual wood on him. In that case, he would kill him and take the spiritual wood. Even if he didn't get the Earth's spirit fruit in the end, it wouldn't be too much of a loss. At the same time, Falling Moon was also entangled by someone, and the one who attacked was precisely beautiful Devilon. Ling Xiao, you asked for it. You can't blame anyone else. Lan Mimi thought that by delaying Falling Moon, the Tortoiseshell Emperor would be able to kill Ling Xiao. However, Ling Xiao acted as if he hadn't heard Lan Mimi's words or seen the Tortoiseshell Monarch's attack. He was still heading straight for the Earth Spirit Fruit. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Ling Xiao had dodged the Tortoiseshell Emperor's attack. Now that he was in the three-headed lava hound's beast soul transformation state, not only was the lava not a hindrance to him, it was actually helpful. His speed was much faster than when he was outside. What? When the Tortoiseshell Emperor saw this scene, he was instantly stunned. But how could he possibly give up? Seeing Ling Xiao actually slip away under his attack, that would be too embarrassing for him. However, just as he was about to continue chasing after Ling Xiao, he suddenly sensed that something was wrong. Turning his head to look, he saw that a mass of lava was already only 3 to 4 meters away from him. This lava took on the appearance of a three-headed lava hound. But what was burning was a strange fire. Not good. The Tortoiseshell Emperor hurriedly urged the defense with all his might to block this strange fire lava. He was still perplexed. Why would there be strange fire lava appearing here? It was clearly still over 20 meters away from the Earth Spirit Fruit. Rumble. Relying on the powerful defense, the Tortoiseshell Emperor finally blocked this strange fire lava. However, a streak of sword light directly pierced through his throat. It turned out that it was actually Ling Xiao who returned. You. The Tortoiseshell Emperor never thought that he would actually fall at the hands of such a minor character. He actually died just like that. This kind of death was simply unacceptable. But the piercing pain in his throat was incomparably real. Whoever dares to stop me will end up like this. Ling Xiao glanced at the crowd coldly and continued moving forward. The dead Tortoiseshell Emperor's corpse had already been gradually melted by the lava, and the storage ring on his hand naturally also fell into Ling Xiao's hands. I definitely can't let you get the Earth Spirit Fruit. At this moment, Painted Plum Fairy also pounced towards Ling Xiao. People from Linglong Palace? I already have a grudge with you, but you actually dare to stop me. Die. Ling Xiao snorted coldly and shook the long sword in his hand. A bright sword light tore through the lava and shot towards Painted Plum Fairy. Painted Plum Fairy was originally not weak, but unfortunately she encountered Ling Xiao. Under the strong clash, she was actually sent flying and fell within 10 meters of the Earth Spirit Fruit. For a moment, she did not have time to activate the talisman defense and was actually instantly burned to death by the lava. That kid is crazy. He killed Tortoiseshell Emperor, offended myriad kingdoms, killed Painted Plum Fairy, and offended Linglong Palace. What a freak! Everyone who had been planning to attack Ling Xiao stopped in their tracks. They looked at the young man in shock. It's because he's strong that he doesn't fear myriad kingdoms or Linglong Palace. Someone laughed bitterly. A first-level life-sizer actually killed a second-level life-sizer, like chopping vegetables. Just who is this guy? Let's go. There's no point in talking to these lunatics. Let's keep moving forward. Even if we can't get the Earth Spirit Fruit, we can still get the other treasures. More than half of the 30-plus people were gone. The only ones left were Orchid Beauty, Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix, Sleeping Moon, Empress Orchid, Mei Chen, Jean Fengming, and Emperor Ice Snake. Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix, you should leave. I have no grudge with the Gold Phoenix, Sword Palace. In fact, I have some ties with them. I don't want to be your enemy. Ling Xiao looked at Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix and said flatly, You talk big, boy, Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix said. Well, I'm the Empress of the Gold Phoenix Sword Palace, so it would be a bit embarrassing for me to just leave. Why don't you take one of my attacks? If you can, I'll leave. Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix smiled. All right. Not fighting Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix and Jin Fengming to the death was a good thing for him. Watch out for this, Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix said, waving his right hand and sending a blood-red sword beam toward Yang Qi. Ling Xiao looked at the beam of sword light and waved his devil dragon sword. Ding! Their swords collided, and both of them realized what was going on. Not bad, boy, Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix said. Not even Orchid Beauty would dare to take that move head-on. Let's go, Fengming. Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix knew that the fight for the Earth Spirit Fruit had nothing to do with him. If he really fought Ling Xiao to the death, not only would he not gain anything, he might even die. Of course, Jin Fengming didn't object. He had been there when Ling Xiao killed Heaven Sea Oni, and that terrifying scene was still fresh in his mind. Chapter 3146. What about you guys? Are you leaving? Ling Xiao asked Ice Snake Emperor and Lan Mimi. Brat, you're too presumptuous. Do you really think you can do whatever you want after killing Tortoise Emperor and Painted Plum Fairy? Ice Snake Emperor, help me stall Falling Moon. I'll kill this brat. Lan Mimi roared. No problem. Ice Snake Emperor smiled. He was more than happy to have fewer opponents. My son, kill this brat with your mother. Lan Mimi looked at Empress Lan Meichin and said, Mother, let's go. This brat is no longer someone we can deal with. Empress Lan Meichin was the same as Jin Fengming. She was already scared out of her wits by Ling Xiao. How could she have the courage to fight? Trash, get lost! Lan Mimi cursed. However, Empress Lan Meichin did not change her mind because of her cursing. Instead, she turned around and left. Old witch Lan Meichin, you're not as sensible as your son. He knows that you're no longer my opponent, but you're still so stubborn. Ling Xiao mocked. Bullsh, *T, take this. Demon-killing fist. Lan Meichin did not want to listen to Ling Xiao anymore. The true origin in her body vibrated. Black and red colors appeared on her hands. Then she threw out both palms. The palm print instantly shattered a large amount of magma and blasted towards Ling Xiao. Still the same old trick? It's a pity that the demon-killing fist is useless against me now. Ling Xiao simply put away the demon dragon sword and threw out both his fists. The boiling magma wrapped around his fists and blasted towards Lan Meichin. Boom! Red and black colors exploded in the magma. The entire lava fountain began to shake. The warriors who had just left were secretly glad of their decision when they saw the scene. Seems like leaving was the right choice. Otherwise, if they were implicated, they would definitely die. That guy called Ling Xiao is too scary. Even Lan Meichin's demon-killing fist can't kill him. Kill him? I don't think it's possible to pose a threat to him. Not to mention the size of the people above. The battle below was still very intense. The more Lan Mimi fought, the more fearful she felt. Had it not been for the 18th sword protecting Ling Xiao, she could have easily killed Ling Xiao. But now, her specialty had become nothing in front of Ling Xiao. Good lad, looks like you've really grown up these days. However, the devil-killing fist isn't as simple as you think. What I just used to deal with you was only the first move. Next, I will let you see the true terror of the demon-killing fist. Beautiful Devil Lan roared as the true essence in her body surged. The terrifying battle intent continued to soar. The surrounding magma was actually pushed back more than 10 meters. Only the mysterious flame, magma, remained unmoved. Magic-killing fist, King's Trial. With a furious roar, Lan Mei raised her right hand. A tear appeared in the void beside him. Then a huge fist drilled out of the crack and fiercely blasted towards Ling Xiao. That terrifying pressure caused the surrounding magma to tremble with every inch it advanced. This old demonic granny isn't just bragging. This demon-killing fist is truly powerful. Ling Xiao frowned, but he had no intention of retreating. It was different from beautiful Devil Lan forcing the magma back. At this time, Ling Xiao was like a magma black hole, absorbing a large amount of magma to his side. The three-headed lava hound beast soul transformed and flashed with a fiery red light. And it was getting hotter and hotter. Have a taste of my move, Magma Ghost King. The most powerful thing about Ling Xiao was that he could adjust his moves according to the environment. Magma Ghost King. It was condensed from the mysterious flame magma and the heavenly tribulation true essence. It was bigger and stronger than an ordinary Ghost King. The Ghost King appeared and raised its huge hands to the sky. Boom! Those hands blocked the huge fist of the demon-killing fist. It's very powerful. It should be a mid-level general realm martial art. However, it still can't do anything to me. After all, this is my home ground. Ling Xiao smiled coldly. The Magma Ghost King roared angrily, and the red light on its body became even more dazzling. Humph! Once the king's judgment falls, no one can resist. Lan Meima snorted coldly. She channeled even more true yuan into her fist. She wanted to smash the Magma Ghoul King and Ling Xiao into pieces. Is that so? That one wants to block it. Ling Xiao sneered. It absorbed the energy of the magma even more crazily. Even the mysterious flame magma was absorbed into his beast soul transformation. The three-headed lava hound's level continued to rise. 1 star, 14 hells. 1 star, 15 hells. First tier life seizing. Second tier life seizing. 9th tier life seizing. The mysterious flame magma released by the earth spirit fruit was indeed terrifying. In addition, it was easy for beast souls to rise in level, much easier than for martial artists or demonlings. The three-headed lava hound that used to only have 1 star and 18 hells had now reached the 9th tier of life seizing. Although the special skill was still scorching hell, it was even more terrifying than before. Not only were there fire snakes and magma hounds, but there were also meteors falling from the sky. Now, scorching hell didn't just increase the power of fire-type attacks and reduce the power of other types of attacks. Instead, it possessed truly terrifying lethality. Scorching hell, meteor calamity. When the energy had accumulated to a certain extent, Ling Xiao finally used the newly upgraded scorching hell. Everything around her was enveloped within it. Several gigantic meteorites appeared in the upper levels of the scorching inferno and smashed towards Devil Lan. The scorching hell was completely enveloped by the meteors. Beautiful Devil Lan had no chance of escaping. Not good. Stop all attacks. Devil Dragon Egg. Beautiful Devil Lan howled as she was surrounded by an enormous black devil dragon egg. She was completely cut off from the rest of the world. Ruoyumble. The meteors slammed into the devil dragon egg, causing it to cave in. It seemed as if it was going to completely smash open the demonic dragon egg. Beautiful Devil Lan hid inside, trembling with fear. She had never imagined that she would have to use this move one day. What a strong defense. But can it really stop all attacks? Let's see how many meteors you can stop. Ling Xiao laughed coldly as he circulated his internal energy, causing several more meteors to appear in the sky. Not good. It seems that the devil dragon egg isn't safe either. Run. Beautiful Devil Lan's face was ashen. She had thought that the Ice Snake Empress would be the one to fight with her for the Earth Spirit fruit. But now she realized that she had underestimated Ling Xiao. She would never be able to get her revenge. Ling Xiao, this fellow, was simply a monster from head to toe. She shrunk the devil dragon egg until it could only cover her body, then charged out of the scorching hell. After all, the scorching hell wasn't a barrier martial soul, so it couldn't stop beautiful Devil Lan's charge. Chapter 30, 147. Watching Lan Mimi escape. Ling Xiao just smiled disdainfully and did not chase. Although he could destroy the demonic dragon egg, he would have to consume a large amount of true essence. It was not worth it. Now, the earth spirit fruit was the most important. With Lan Mimi escaping like this, the Ice Snake Emperor could not stay any longer. Because he was fighting 1 against 2 now, he was simply not a match for Ling Xiao and Yan Yu. F***CK. How can this kid called Ling Xiao be so strong? I really underestimated him. The Ice Snake Emperor looked at the earth spirit fruit in the depths of the magma reluctantly, gritted his teeth, and turned to leave. The item was good, but without life to enjoy it, it was meaningless. The Ice Snake Emperor was not willing to throw his life away here. Moreover, even if he left now, there was still a chance. Even if Ling Xiao obtained the earth spirit fruit now, there was still the possibility of it being snatched away. Unless Ling Xiao ate the earth spirit fruit after obtaining it. But according to the Ice Snake Emperor's knowledge, because of the enormous energy of the earth spirit fruit, if one wanted to consume it directly, there was absolutely the danger of exploding. And even if one did not explode, one would have to go into seclusion for a long time to absorb the energy. Otherwise, the medicinal effect would be wasted. This was the Ice Venerable's tomb. There were dangers everywhere. Who dared to cultivate in seclusion here? Thinking up to here, he hurriedly left. As long as he was alive, there was still a chance. Seeing all the enemies leave, Yan Yu finally heaved a sigh of relief. She smiled at Ling Xiao and said, "Even Lan Mimi is not your match now. I'm afraid she really has to learn to be obedient in the future." Ling Xiao smiled. Whether Lan Mimi was obedient or not, he did not care. If that old witch did not know her limits and insisted on continuing to be enemies with him, he did not mind sending that fellow to the Western Paradise. Now he was more concerned about that earth spirit fruit. Looking at that strange flame magma, Ling Xiao directly rushed over. That strange flame magma not only did not harm him in the slightest, but it also helped. He easily obtained that earth spirit fruit. After obtaining the earth spirit fruit, Ling Xiao consumed it immediately. A 5,000-year-old earth spirit fruit could allow a martial artist to possess a terrifying defensive power equivalent to cultivating a primary king-level defensive martial art. In the Sword Dynasty, the most powerful defensive martial arts technique was the advanced general level. After consuming this thing, his defense would be even stronger than his current black tortoise divine physique. Perhaps even a martial artist who was 4 or 5 realms stronger than him would not be able to kill him easily. No. When Falling Moon wanted to stop Ling Xiao, it was already too late. He could not help but shake his head and smile bitterly. "Don't worry, Sister Yanue. I know what you're worried about, but don't use the situation of ordinary people to judge me." Ling Xiao smiled. As the earthly spirit fruit entered his stomach, its powerful energy began to strengthen his physical body, making his black tortoise divine physique even stronger. In just over 10 minutes, it had already risen to the level of a primary king-level defensive martial art. However, the earth spirit fruit's energy absolutely did not stop here. A large amount of energy was injected into Ling Xiao's cells. It turned into potential. For Ling Xiao, he would never waste any elixir or spirit fruit's medicinal effect. It was just delaying the absorption. As long as he continued to fight, the medicinal effect would eventually be completely absorbed. "It's done." A layer of faint red light appeared on Ling Xiao's skin. This was the effect of the earth spirit fruit on the black tortoise divine physique. "It's done? Are you sure?" Falling Moon was a little incredulous. "It's only been 10 minutes. Sister Yanue, if you don't believe me, you can try to attack me," Ling Xiao said to Falling Moon as he removed all his defenses and only retained the strength of his physical body. "Forget it. What if I hurt you?" Falling Moon shook her head. "I won't die." Ling Xiao shook his head. He had the life backtrack skill. Even if he was really killed by Falling Moon, he could instantly recover. So naturally he was not worried. Falling Moon was really curious, so she slapped Ling Xiao. Because she was worried about hurting Ling Xiao, she only used 50% of her strength. However, even with 50% of her strength, Ling Xiao did not move at all. There was not even the slightest injury on his body. "Sister Falling Moon, are you scratching an itch?" Ling Xiao said with a wry smile. Falling Moon was stunned. She used 100% of her strength for the second palm strike. No matter if it was a martial artist in the second tier of the life-seizing realm, if they did not dodge, they would definitely be killed. However, when it hit Ling Xiao, it still had no effect. There was not even the slightest trace of a palm print. Heavens! What kind of monster have you become? Falling Moon was dumbfounded. Hee, the Earth Spirit Fruit is really good for me. Let's go and see how Big Brother Baifong is doing. Ling Xiao smiled and went to the place where the Baifong was cultivating. At the moment, the Baifong seemed to be just a paper-thin barrier away from a breakthrough. "Big Brother Baifong, let me help you. But it might hurt a bit, so you have to endure it." Ling Xiao knew that the external pressure was not enough, and therefore, the Baifong had not yet met the requirements for a breakthrough. "It's fine," he said. "I've seen a lot of things. Come on." Ling Xiao nodded, then sent the strange flame lava into the Baifong's body. In that moment, the Baifong felt as if his body were about to melt, and he let out a miserable shriek. At the same time, he felt as if the paper-thin barrier he had been stuck with was finally being torn apart. The heavenly tribulation was coming. "Big Brother Baifong, here are 2 heavenly tribulation jades. Take them." Ling Xiao had no shortage of heavenly tribulation jades. The first and second tier life seizers he had killed all had heavenly tribulation jades in their rings of holding, and more than one. He now had 30 heavenly tribulation jades. Even if he gave away 2, it wouldn't hurt. "Many thanks." The Baifong didn't refuse. He accepted the heavenly tribulation jades and began to deal with the tribulation. The heavenly tribulation of the second tier life sizer was the second tribulation of mortal lightning. Although it was difficult, it was much easier than Ling Xiao's second tribulation of demon lightning. In less than half an hour, with the help of the heavenly tribulation jades, the Baifong successfully broke through. "Let's go. Dragon Mammoth is still up there. I'm worried someone might target him." Falling Moon said worriedly, "Don't worry, Big Sister Falling Moon. I can sense that Big Brother Dragon Mammoth is hiding. He's not stupid." Ling Xiao chuckled, then rushed out of the lava with the Baifong and Falling Moon. The moment they rushed out of the lava pool, several figures pounced on them at the same time. As expected, greed could blind people. These people knew how strong Ling Xiao was, and yet they still wanted to take the Earth Spirit Fruit. Ling Xiao, Falling Moon, and the Baifong all attacked at the same time. Without even looking, Ling Xiao punched out, and his black tortoise god body erupted with terrifying power. It was like the eruption of heavenly flame lava. In the blink of an eye, 3 of the second-tier life seizers were killed. Falling Moon and the Baifong each killed a person. Out of the 8 people who had besieged them, 5 died in an instant. The remaining 3 fled in panic. Trash! Chapter 30, 148. After the 3 pieces of trash escaped, Long Xiang walked out of his hiding place and hurriedly said to Ling Xiao, "I just heard that there are treasures ahead. It seems to be Ice Venerable's armory. When Ice Venerable was alive, he was best at using swords. That armory is also full of swords. Ling Xiao, you and Yen, you are both swordsmen. This time, you might be able to obtain quite a few good swords." Hearing this, Ling Xiao could not help but reveal a smile. He currently only had a high-quality Emperor artifact, the Demon Dragon Sword. It was very difficult to display the power of 2 swords, so it was best to obtain another high-quality Emperor artifact that matched the Demon Dragon Sword. That way, at least he could use it for a long time. "Let's go!" Yen, you also revealed a joyful expression. letting Long Xiang lead the way. Everyone rushed to the armory. At this time, there were only 3 or 4 people in the armory. The weapons were already in a mess, and many of them were taken away. There were only a few scattered weapons that were not very good. The best was only a mortal emperor artifact. Yan, you revealed a disappointed expression. Ling Xiao also frowned. It seemed that in this world, there really was no situation where he could obtain all the good things. He searched carefully, and sure enough, there was nothing good. Helpless, he could only leave and continue forward. In front, they should have already reached the deepest part of the cemetery. Ling Xiao could even feel the faint aura of the ice venerable catalog, forming some kind of connection with the other catalogs in his storage ring. And there are people fighting in front. As they were walking, they suddenly heard shouts of killing in front of them. Moreover, there were people cursing loudly. The ones being chased are Gold Phoenix, Sword Emperor, and Gold Phoenix Cry. The ones fighting are Lan Mei Devil, Lan Di Mei Chen, Ice Snake Emperor, and the other 3 Sword Emperor level experts. Before reaching the vicinity, Ling Xiao had already seen the situation of the battle. I think Gold Phoenix Sword Emperor must have obtained something good. That's why he's being chased. Ling Xiao speculated. Just as he was about to go over, he suddenly heard Lan Mei Devil say, Gold Phoenix, Sword Emperor, although you are powerful, you are still outnumbered. If you know what's good for you, hand over the Ice Venerable Sword. Otherwise, you and your son won't be able to leave here alive today. Supreme Ice Sword. When Ling Xiao heard these 3 words, he immediately became spirited. This ice-revered sword should be the most outstanding sword in the armory. Otherwise, it would not have caused so many experts to fight over it. Humph, beautiful devil orchid. I, the Gold Phoenix Sword Emperor, am unlucky today. This sword is for you. The Golden Phoenix Sword Monarch was a flexible person. Seeing that the situation was not good, he did not hesitate and threw the Ice Supreme sword to Mei Malan. In that instant, the experts who had been teaming up to deal with the Golden Phoenix, Sword Emperor, and Golden Phoenix Ming all charged towards Lan Mei. Suddenly, a golden light flashed past faster than anyone else. Ha ha ha, I thought that today's good luck would end here. I didn't expect that I would be able to obtain such a good sword. This golden light was none other than Ling Xiao. How could he miss such a good opportunity? The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor was afraid of those people joining hands, but Ling Xiao wasn't. With the revered ice sword in his hand, Ling Xiao released his soul force to check. He knew it was real. However, this thing was not a high-quality Emperor weapon. It was actually a treasured Emperor weapon, a level higher than a high-quality Emperor weapon. If he did not have a sword martial spirit, he would not be able to use it with his current cultivation. It was said that treasured Emperor weapons, unless one had a tool martial spirit, could only be used by martial artists who had cultivated to the reincarnation divine realm and possessed a cultivation divine body. Furthermore, even if one had a tool martial spirit, one could only unleash less than half of the power of a treasured Emperor weapon. It can't be wrong. This thing is real. Ling Xiao was a swordsman. He understood swords better than anyone else. The moment he touched it, he already knew that this thing was not an ordinary item. This ice-revered sword is actually made of 1,000-year profound ice. You've really profited. Yan, you looked at the ice-revered sword in Ling Xiao's hand in surprise. The surroundings of the ice-revered sword were always filled with dense cold air. If one could not resist this cold air, they would not even be able to use this sword and would be frozen into ice in an instant. 1,000-year profound ice. Ling Xiao had never heard of this thing. Yan, you said, it's not your fault. 1,000-year profound ice will only appear in the continents above the Black Tortoise continent. The Sky Dragon continent, White Tiger continent, and Divine Phoenix continent do not have it. This thing will only appear in immortal Great Emperor weapons under normal circumstances. It is extremely rare to be used in treasured Emperor weapons. Looks like ice-revered sword is really powerful enough to actually use thousand-year profound ice to make this kind of toy. Toy. A treasured Emperor weapon is a toy? Ling Xiao was stunned for a moment before asking. To ice-revered sword, it's a toy. An expert of ice-revered swords level would probably use divine-grade Emperor weapons. Yan Yu said, but even if it's a toy, you've still profited greatly. Containing this kind of thousand-year profound ice will greatly increase the power of the ice-revered sword. Even when facing ordinary immortal-grade Emperor weapons, it might be at a disadvantage. That's true. Ling Xiao smiled. He had profited greatly from entering the forbidden area this time. Not only had his cultivation improved greatly, he had also obtained many treasures. Even Xiao Jin's cultivation had improved greatly. Furthermore, he had formed a deep friendship with Yan Yu and the others. A friendship that was genuine, and not just some fair-weather friends. Ling Xiao, I advise you to hand over the ice-revered sword. Even 9th Division Life Seizers can use it. There's no way you can keep it. You'll just lose your poor little life. Seeing that the sword was back in Ling Xiao's hands, Lan Mei Devil couldn't help but speak up. You think you can keep it? You can't even beat me. What makes you think you're qualified to make thoughtless remarks? How laughable. Ling Xiao looked over at Lan Mei Devil with a derisive sneer. Then he prepared to put the ice-revered sword away. I may not be as strong as you, but don't forget, I am the demon venerable of the Demon Dragon Sword Court. I naturally have my own methods to protect this sword, and you are just a lone wolf. Lan Mimi said sinisterly. Give it to me, and I'll wipe the slate clean. In fact, I'll even compensate you handsomely. Ha 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 ha. You're still thinking about giving me charity? How laughable. In my eyes, a devil revered like you isn't even worth mentioning. Ling Xiao laughed heartily, completely looking down on Lan Mei Devil. Lan Mei Devil knew how strong Ling Xiao was, so although she was furious, she didn't attack. Instead, a 2nd Division Life Sizer stepped forward from behind him, who didn't know what was going on. Boy, I'm from the Ice Dynasty. If you give me the ice-revered sword, I'll take you to the Ice Dynasty and guarantee your safety. Sorry, I'm not interested. Ling Xiao shook his head decisively. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, boy. Time for you to die. That Ice Dynasty martial artist immediately exploded with a strong killing intent, wanting to kill Ling Xiao. Suddenly, a sword martial soul appeared behind Ling Xiao. He wanted to test out the power of the ice-revered sword. Circulating the true energy of heavenly tribulation, he sent it into the sword. In the blink of an eye, frigid coldness filled the area, causing everyone to shiver. Chapter 30, 149. Cold energy condensed on the ice-revered sword, and the surroundings instantly became incomparably cold. A snow-white sword chi tore through the void from the tip of the sword. No one could describe the peerless beauty of this sword. The entire space seemed to have stopped in an instant. In the space, there was only this cold sword. It overshadowed everything else. Swish! The snow-white sword chi instantly slid through the body of the 2nd-level life sizer of the Ice Dynasty. It was so fast that he couldn't even react to what had happened. However, the sword light didn't stop there. After piercing through the martial artist's body, it continued forward and actually blasted open a huge tomb chamber in front of him. A huge coffin was revealed. Without a doubt, that was the ice-revered sword's coffin. The coffin was protected by layers of formations, and even Ling Xiao couldn't break it. It was too complicated and time-consuming. Fortunately, there was a white crystal floating above the coffin. Within the crystal, the ice-revered sword catalog was shining with the same white light. Bang! The 2 halves of the completely frozen corpse fell to the ground and shattered. Just one sword, one casual sword, Without even using any moves, the second-level life-sizer of the Ice Dynasty died on the spot. It was as easy as a human swatting a mosquito to death. It's really draining. Ling Xiao was somewhat surprised. Although the ice-revered sword was terrifying, just one sword had used up nearly half of his heavenly tribulation true essence. In other words, with his current strength, he could only use 2 swords. He really had to take it easy on this thing. After swallowing a pill to recover his internal energy, Ling Xiao's internal energy began to slowly recover. His cultivation had broken through, and the effects of the previous pills weren't very good. It seemed that he had to quickly refine the heavenly tribulation fruit into heavenly tribulation pills. However, at this moment, that wasn't the most important thing. Obtaining the ice-revered sword catalog was the key. Just now, everyone was incomparably shocked by the death of the Ice Dynasty martial artist. But when they turned their heads and saw the ice-revered sword catalog floating above the ice coffin, they all became anxious. Coming to the ice-revered sword tomb, besides the other treasures, the most important thing was the ice-revered sword catalog. As long as they obtained this thing, this trip would be worth it. However, there was one person who was faster than them. In the blink of an eye, the scarlet red light had already arrived in front of the Ice Exalt catalog, after which he stretched out his hand and grabbed it, storing it into his storage ring. Great Sage of Poison! Ling Xiao's brows furrowed tightly. No matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't stop this guy. The Poison Great Sage didn't leave after obtaining the Ice-revered catalog. Instead, he turned around and looked at the crowd. I don't care about the Ice Exalt catalog, but someone killed my nephew, Duguxiong. I have to avenge him. Now, if anyone can give me a clue, I will give this Ice Paragon catalog to him. But remember, don't lie. I, the Great Poison Sage, am no fool. If I find out who's lying, I'll destroy them. There were still people who wanted to say something, but when they heard this, they all shut their mouths. Actually, even Yan Yu and Long Xiang did not know who had killed Duguxiong. They only knew that Ling Xiao had chased after Duguxiong, and then Duguxiong had died. That was all. Therefore, anyone who said who the murderer was just guessing. Great Sage of Poison, although I don't know who killed Duguxiong, there is one person who is worthy of suspicion. Devil Orchid stepped forward and said, "That person is Ling Xiao." This kid deliberately hid his strength and killed several second-level life-seizers. Moreover, he has a grudge with the Sword God Hall. It's most likely that he's the one who killed Duguxiong. Hearing this, the Great Sage of Poison looked at Ling Xiao and said coldly, "Is that true?" "If I say no, would you believe me?" Ling Xiao asked back. "Humph. I'd rather kill the wrong person than let him go. This has always been the rule of the Sword God Hall. Just as Devil Orchid said, you are a great suspect. Now you have 2 choices. One is to follow me back to the Sword God Hall to be interrogated. The other is to die here." The Great Sage of Poison snorted coldly, and his face was extremely gloomy. "Ha ha ha, the Sword God Hall is really domineering. Since that's the case, why don't you make a move?" Ling Xiao laughed wildly, looked at the Great Sage of Poison, and said coldly, "At first, I sympathized with you for losing to that Duguxiong, but now it seems that it's normal for you to lose to him. You don't even know your own situation, and you dare to say such words?" "My situation?" the Great Sage of Poison asked. "What situation? Don't forget that everyone here is here for the Ice Paragon catalog. Now that you have the Ice Paragon catalog, you are the target of public criticism, although they are afraid of you and don't dare to say anything. But what if you are injured? Will this pack of vicious wolves eat you alive?" Ling Xiao asked with a smile. "Ridiculous. Who can hurt me with just you?" The Great Sage of Poison said disdainfully. "It's actually very easy to hurt you." Ling Xiao took out the Demon Dragon Sword, but hid the Ice Paragon Sword. The Ice Paragon Sword was the key to defeating the Great Sage of Poison. He had to use it at the most appropriate time. 1 strike to kill. So what if he was in the 3rd division of life seizing? Given his current strength, it wasn't like he couldn't beat him. That kid is crazy, isn't he? He killed a few 2nd division life seizers, and now he thinks he's invincible? I can't believe he dares to provoke the great sage of poison. What else can we do? Follow the great sage of poison to Sword God Hall? He's Ling Xiao, 2nd on the bounty list. Wouldn't he just be throwing his life away? That's true. Although, if the kid dies, he has a lot of treasures on him. So what? The great sage of poison already has the treasure. There's no way we can get it. Originally, they had been competitors, but now they were mere bystanders. Many of the martial artists felt helpless. Whether it was Ling Xiao or the great sage of poison, neither of them were people they could afford to provoke. If you want to kill Ling Xiao, you'll have to go through me, Falling Moon. Falling Moon was a woman who didn't lose out to any man. Seeing that Ling Xiao was in trouble, she immediately stepped forward to share the joys and sorrows of Ling Xiao. You can't leave me out, Bai Fong. The Bai Fong also stepped forward. And me. I might not be strong enough, but I can still block a few attacks. Of course, Dragon Mammoth wasn't going to back down. Good. Very good. Everyone says you 9 Defiants are very united. Now that I see it for myself, it's true. But today, all 3 of you are going to die. Great Sage of Poison said coldly. Great Sage of Poison, would you mind listening to me? Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix suddenly interjected. What do you have to say? Great Sage of Poison said coldly. We don't have any proof that Ling Xiao killed Prince Dugo, Falling Moon said. Attacking him is a bit inappropriate. For better or worse, Ling Xiao is the man my daughter likes. For Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix to speak up for Ling Xiao at a time like this was shocking to Ling Xiao. He could understand Falling Moon, Bai Fong, and Dragon Mammoth's actions. They were good women and men who valued friendship. However, Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix didn't have much to do with him. Speaking of which, he only had a slight connection with Golden Phoenix Chi-Chi. Chapter 3150. You want to die too? The great sage of poison said, not giving any face to Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix. You want to kill me? I'm afraid you're not strong enough to do that. Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix chuckled coldly, unleashing a terrifying aura. 3rd Division Life Sizer. My God, I can't believe he broke through. He broke through at a critical moment like this. Ling Xiao is so lucky. Lan Maydevil's expression turned very unsightly when she sensed Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix's aura. They were clearly rivals, but Yang Qi had reached a higher level than her. Perhaps it was because of Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix that Ling Xiao would be safe. So what if he broke through? I can still kill you as easily as blowing some dust off my shoulder. The great sage of poisons was still as arrogant as ever. Is that so? Looks like we have no choice but to fight. Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix sighed. Looking at Ling Xiao, he said, let me do it. Consider it a favor. Many thanks, Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix. But there's no need for that. Ling Xiao shook his head. Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix was surrounded just now and was seriously injured. Although he managed to make a breakthrough, he's still very weak. He's definitely not a match for this great sage of poisons. Why are you so stubborn, kid? You're just like Chi-Chi. Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix chuckled bitterly. I might be seriously injured, but I'm still stronger than you. Well, that's not necessarily true. Ling Xiao chuckled. Looking at the great sage of poisons, he said, you're just relying on your poisons. What do you think you can do to me? Big Sister River Moon, Big Brother Dragon Mammoth, Big Brother Bifong, don't do anything. I'll deal with him myself. Are you looking to die? The great sage of poisons blurted. He was a mighty 3rd Division life sizer, and yet he was being looked down upon by a junior. Looking to die? Do you want to make a bet with me? Ling Xiao said, chuckling. There's no need for that. You don't qualify. Even as the words left his mouth, the great sage of poisons attacked. Poison's dragon. A terrifying violet dragon had burst out of his body. Poisons and great sage of poisons heaven, and Ling Xiao said poisons. This purple divine dragon was completely transformed from venom and was incomparably ferocious. The liquid that dripped onto the ground could instantly corrode the thick stone slabs. 9 snake will transform. 9 snake poison domain. Ling Xiao also made a move, but it was not an attack. Instead, it was to receive this poison dragon. The poison dragon bit Ling Xiao. However, the poison was slowly being absorbed by Ling Xiao's body. One of General Nine Snake's snake heads actually became even more ferocious. The attack of a 3rd division life-sizer isn't bad at all. My sea of power increased by 10%, and now it's at 30%. That's not all. My 9 snake General Beast Soul has advanced from the 18 hells of hell to the 1st division of the 1-star life-seizing level. Very good. The reason Ling Xiao wanted to train alone with the poison great sage was not only because he didn't fear him, but more importantly, he wanted to use the poison great sage to cultivate. As long as he finished his battle with the poison great sage, he wouldn't have to go to the sea of poison anymore. Do you really think I'm qualified to make a bet with you now? Ling Xiao said with a mocking tone. Not bad, kid, but that's all there is to it. Roaring, the great sage of poison unleashed another attack. Before, there was only 1 poison dragon, but now there were 9. The 9 venomous dragons were 9 layers of attacks, and their destructive power was 9 times stronger than before, and 9 times more toxic than before. However, this time, Ling Xiao didn't do anything. The 9 poison dragons were swallowed up by the 9 snake heads. Ling Xiao's 9 snake General Beast Soul advanced again, reaching the 2nd division of the life-seizing level. Ling Xiao's cultivation sea energy had also increased a lot, but it was not as fast as before. This poison won't hurt me. It'll only make me stronger. Ling Xiao stretched out his index finger and gestured at the great poison sage. Come on, let's continue. I want to see what kind of ability the great poison sage, who brags so much, has. You're forcing my hand, kid. The great sage of poison was truly enraged by Ling Xiao's provocation. In the blink of an eye, the violet poison around him turned blood red. The poison dragons vanished. In their place, the great sage of poison was an enormous, blood-red monster. Blood Blight Devil. As soon as the Blood Blight Devil was unleashed, the air was filled with deadly poison. The 2nd division life-sizer who was closest to the great sage of poison instantly turned bright red, and then was dissolved by the poison. Get away from him. Everyone screamed as they fled to a place where the Blood Blight Devil couldn't reach them. Now, this is interesting, Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. Then he transformed into his 9 snake general form. He was now an enormous 9-headed snake. Each of the 9 heads was larger than the Blood Blight Devil. Roar! The 9 snake heads stretched out at the same time and bit down on the poison Bloodseeker's body. The Blood Blight Devil let out a blood-curdling shriek. It wasn't as big as a 9-headed snake to begin with, and yet it felt as if it were about to be ripped to shreds. The terrifying blood-red poison entered the 9-headed snake's body, but didn't cause any symptoms. In fact, it seemed to be growing more and more excited. It was almost as if the poison was the best nourishment for it. General Nine Snake's Beast Soul has reached the 3rd division of the life-seizing level. What Ling Xiao needed to do was more or less done. His sea of power was now at 40%. Now he needed to work hard on the Ice Paragon catalog. Without saying a word, he summoned his golden phoenix incarnation and sent it to hide behind him. At the same time, he continued to attack the Great Sage of Poison. The Great Sage of Poison didn't suspect anything, and could never have guessed that Ling Xiao had something even more powerful up his sleeve. All he wanted to do was cripple the nine-headed snake. Even as he opened his door, the golden phoenix incarnation stabbed out with a deadly sword. The air suddenly turned cold. A snow-white stream of sword energy appeared in front of the great sage of poison. Then it pierced through the blood-blight devil and froze him. Roar! At this moment, the nine-headed snake opened its mouth and bit off the poison great sage's storage ring. At the same time, it also bit off one of the poison great sage's hands. However, the great sage of poison was still a third division life-sizer. He had actually used the golden cicada shedding its carapace, abandoning his blood-blight devil incarnation and fleeing with his true body. Ling Xiao had no intention of giving chase. As long as he got the Ice Paragon catalog, that was enough. After all, he was the bane of the great sage of poison. Even if he ran into him again, he wouldn't fear him. When he turned to look for Lan Mei Devil to settle the score, he found that she and Empress Lan Mei-chin were gone. "You old bastard, you sure ran fast." Ling Xiao snorted coldly. When Lan Mei Devil had suggested to the great sage of poison, he had wanted to kill him. That bastard must have sensed the danger, so he quietly slipped away. Because the Bai Fong and the others were worried about Ling Xiao's safety, they hadn't noticed when Lan Mei Devil and Empress Lan Mei-chin had fled. "Well done, kid," the great sage of poison said. "Looks like I was being nosy. You really are stronger than me." Chapter 3151. Senior, you flatter me. I was just lucky this time. Ling Xiao smiled at the gold phoenix, Sword Emperor. "Forget it. Let's not talk about this. Ling Xiao, you must visit the Gold Phoenix Sword Palace when you're free. Chi-Chi misses you very much." The Gold Phoenix Sword Emperor smiled. The Gold Phoenix Sword Palace had suffered a great loss in this trip to the Forbidden Grounds. Fortunately, they had obtained a large amount of spiritual fruits and spiritual herbs, as well as some high-quality Emperor-level weapons. It was considered good. Therefore, his mood wasn't too bad. However, what he wanted to do now was to pull Ling Xiao to his side. Even if he couldn't make Ling Xiao join the Gold Phoenix Sword Palace or become his son-in-law, it wouldn't be wrong to build a good relationship with him. "I'll definitely visit when I'm free." Ling Xiao hadn't seen Jin Feng Chi-Chi for a long time. He indeed missed her. "Then that's it. Goodbye." The Gold Phoenix Sword Emperor bid farewell to Jin Feng Ming and left. They had entered the Forbidden Grounds through the crack, but they could leave through the exit of the graveyard. It was very safe. "Let's go too." Ling Xiao glanced at Yan Yu and said, "Yes, we shouldn't stay here for long." Yan Yu nodded, and everyone left the graveyard. When they felt the stimulation of the sunlight, they realized that they were already near Tianju town. "We're finally out." There wasn't such good sunlight in the Forbidden Grounds. Long Xiang heaved a sigh of relief. "Let's go to the town. Phantom might still be waiting there. There's also Long Chen and Cold Plum. I wonder how they are doing." Ling Xiao was still worried about his friends. It wasn't because he was worried about their safety. They had their own adventures, and they had come all the way here. They wouldn't die so easily. He wanted to see them as soon as possible, because he wanted to refine the Heaven Tribulation fruit into Heaven Tribulation pills, and give everyone a few. He had gained the most in the Forbidden Grounds this time. A 4,000-year-old Heaven Tribulation fruit. A 5,000-year-old Earth Spirit fruit. A treasure-level Emperor-level Ice Revered Sword. In addition to the 5 Ghosts Mystic Technique, Emperor Overlord Sword, Ice Revered Catalog, and Exquisite Catalog, as well as a large number of medicinal herbs that could be used to refine the recovery pill. Of course, there were also a large number of middle-grade spirit stones, Heaven Calamity Jades, and other such items. Since he was the one who ate the meat, he should at least leave some soup for his friends. That's right, Falling Moon. You're experienced and knowledgeable. If you obtain the 9 catalogs, Will you be able to cultivate a king-level offensive martial art? Ling Xiao looked at Falling Moon and asked, Not really. Falling Moon shook her head and said, This matter, I've heard the leader mention it before. The Nine Supremes catalog was only the key to opening the Nine Supremes' Forbidden Land. With the Nine Supremes catalog and the Myriad Kingdoms catalog, one could head to the Forbidden Land of Death and activate the Forbidden Land of Nine Supremes. In addition to king-level martial arts, there were also a large number of treasures. Compared to the Forbidden Land of Nine Supremes, the Forbidden Land of Ice we've experienced this time pales in comparison. What is the Forbidden Land of the Nine Supremes? Ling Xiao asked curiously. Rumor has it that the Nine Supremes once went to the Forbidden Land of Death to open up a passage, hoping to connect the Western region to the other 4 regions. Hence, the Palace of Nine Supremes was built there. Unfortunately, they encountered trouble later on. Other than Venerable Ice, the Nine Supremes all died there. They also left their martial arts there. Only the Nine Supremes catalog and the Nine Supremes catalog were passed to the Western region through Venerable Ice. Not long after, Venerable Ice passed away as well. Many people believe that Venerable Ice's Forbidden Land is actually a weakened version of the Forbidden Land of Nine Supremes. It's a reminder to martial artists who intend to go to the Forbidden Land of Nine Supremes that it's incomparably dangerous. If one doesn't have the slightest ability, one must never go there rashly. If that's the case, the Forbidden Land of Death's existence is even older than the Nine Supremes. Ling Xiao asked in surprise. That's right. The Forbidden Land of Death was originally called the Immemorial Divine Tomb. Rumor has it that when all the continents in the mystic world were still whole, many ancient battles had already occurred there, leaving behind the tombs of countless human experts, mystical beast experts, and even demons from beyond. Falling Moon nodded and said, But what do you mean by asking about the Immemorial Divine Tomb? Do you want to go there? Better not. That place, even the sword god wouldn't dare to go there easily. The corpses of past experts gave birth to many terrifying monsters. Their strength is much stronger than those in Venerable Ice's Forbidden Land. I definitely have to go, because there's a very important person waiting for me on the other side of the Immemorial Divine Tomb. No matter what, I have to go find her and reunite with her. Ling Xiao was working so hard to increase his strength, besides achieving his great ambition of unifying the mystic world. Another recent goal was to find the Moon Maiden as soon as possible. Forget it. It's probably useless to stop you. I'll tell you about the situation of the Immemorial Divine Tomb. The Immemorial Divine Tomb isn't always open. There's a giant door that the Nine Supremes built that leads to the Immemorial Divine Tomb. This door is to protect the martial artists of the Nine Supremes, to prevent the monsters of the Immemorial Divine Tomb from invading. It will open every once in a while, allowing the martial artists of the Nine Supremes to enter the Immemorial Divine Tomb to search for treasures and increase their strength. When the time comes, all the qualified experts of the Nine Supremes will head there. This time you've also seen a few experts of other forces. But once the door to the Immemorial Divine Tomb opens, you'll see many more experts than that, and they'll be much stronger. I'm afraid that even the sword god Dugabajian will head there personally. Besides, Dugabajian is just a small character in the eyes of the other forces, not even worth mentioning. When Falling Moon said this, she couldn't help but smile sweetly. The leader of our Nine Defiants only needs a finger to easily crush Dugabajian to death. Then I don't understand. Logically speaking, with the Sword Dynasty being so weak, shouldn't it have been destroyed by the other 8 forces long ago? How can it still exist peacefully? Ling Xiao asked in confusion. That's because the Sword Dynasty still has a stabilizing force. He's the great-grandfather of the sword god Dugabajian. The Ice Dynasty, which once bordered the Sword Dynasty, attempted to invade the Sword Dynasty. They've already arrived at the Sword Dynasty's capital. A terrifying sword energy was released from the Imperial Palace, and even the Ice Dynasty's emperor couldn't resist it. Thus he retreated. From then on, for a long time, no one dared to provoke the Sword Dynasty. After more than 100 years, the Ice Dynasty attacked again, of course thinking that the Sword Dynasty's experts were already dead. But it was almost the same scene. This time, the Ice Dynasty's emperor was directly killed. Not only did that person not die, he became even stronger. Although the Ice Dynasty's emperor wasn't its strongest expert, he was an absolute symbol. With him killed, the Ice Dynasty naturally collapsed. From then on, the other 9 forces, including the Ice Dynasty, no longer dared to attack the Sword Dynasty. This situation has been going on for nearly 1,000 years. Falling Moon explained, I didn't expect the Sword Dynasty to have such an old man. How old is he? Ling Xiao frowned and said, logically speaking, he should be dead already. No one knows whether he's dead or not. But what's certain is that even if the owner of the sword energy is dead, the remaining power is still there, and it can still make the Sword Dynasty struggle at death's door. Chapter 3152. I hope he didn't die, otherwise it would be meaningless. Ling Xiao revealed an excited smile. Seeing this, Yan Yu and the rest were speechless. Did this guy not know fear? Hearing that there was an expert, he was actually so happy. In that case, as long as the door to the immemorial Divine Tomb opens, we can head to the immemorial Divine Tomb. Ling Xiao did not feel that there was anything wrong with his excitement at all. If there were no experts to challenge, he would feel very anxious. Not at all. Yan Yu shook her head and said, Legend has it that on the other side of the immemorial Divine Tomb, the 4 great regions possess terrifying existences that we can't imagine. And the existence there controls everything about the immemorial Divine Tomb. When the door to the immemorial Divine Tomb opens, the 2 envoys will appear and hand over the Divine Tomb token to the person they think is qualified to enter the immemorial Divine Tomb. 2 envoys? Divine Tomb token? This Divine Tomb token, can the people of the Sword Dynasty also obtain it? Ling Xiao was very curious. Of course, in the past, the number of Divine Tomb tokens obtained by the 9 great forces was basically about the same. The difference was not too great. But later on, because the martial artists of the Sword Dynasty were too weak, they died when they went. Not a single person returned alive. Probably the 2 envoys felt that it was too wasteful. From then on, they only symbolically gave the Sword Dynasty 3 Divine Tomb tokens, leaving it up to the ruler of the Sword Dynasty to decide who to give it to. They couldn't even be bothered to care. Yan Yu smiled bitterly and said, and the other 8 great forces at least have over 1,000 Divine Tomb tokens. This gap is really a bit too great. Looks like even with the Sword God's great-grandfather holding down the fort, the Sword Dynasty still can't produce any decent talents. Ling Xiao sighed with emotion. Isn't this all because of the Sword Dynasty's own sins? With the management method of the Sword God Hall, if a slightly outstanding talent refuses to obey their orders, they will be directly killed by them, strangled to death in the cradle. It would be strange if they could develop like this. Yan Yu said hatefully. Are those martial artists who didn't return all dead? Ling Xiao asked. That's unknown. In any case, the martial artists of the Sword Dynasty have never returned after going there. Among the 3 people who went there recently, one of them was the Sword God's brother. That person's talent was much stronger than the Sword God's. If he was here, he wouldn't have let Sword God be the emperor. But even that person never came back. What about the other forces? Are they the same? Ling Xiao asked curiously. I'm not too sure about that because the various forces are very strict with the information about the primordial Divine Tomb. I'm afraid we'll have to investigate the specific situation carefully. Falling Moon replied. I see. No matter what, I have to go to the Heavenly Sword Hall. Ling Xiao looked in the direction of the Sword Dynasty Imperial Capital. Whether it was for the Divine Tomb token or for the evading Sword Light Steps, he had to make a trip. As they spoke, they arrived at the small town. Suddenly, Enchanting Shadow darted out from the shadows, looking very nervous. Not good, Longxiang. Your father is in trouble. Phantom said anxiously. What happened to that old man? Longxiang was very respectful to his father. Although his words were indecent, his anxious look showed his own thoughts. 3 days ago, the brothers in the Longxiang tribe sent news that the Longxiang Emperor was ambushed and seriously injured. Although the ambusher was killed, the Longxiang Emperor's injuries are very serious. It's very likely that he was poisoned. Phantom continued. Previously, I met Long Chun and Cold Plum. After they received the news, they immediately went to the Longxiang tribe. I waited here for you to come out just to inform you of this news. Ambushed? Could it be Xiang Man's accomplice? Longxiang frowned. It doesn't matter whether it's Xiang Man's accomplice or not. What's important is that the Heavenly Sword Hall won't miss this excellent opportunity to conquer the Longxiang tribe. All along, the Longxiang Emperor had been the spiritual symbol of the Longxiang tribe and was also the strongest expert. Now he's seriously injured and even on the verge of death. The people of the Longxiang tribe will definitely change their minds. Only when you go back can you take charge of the overall situation. Falling Moon said to Longxiang, That's right. I want to go back. I want to go back immediately. Longxiang turned to leave. Bifang, Qingqing, Phantom, you guys go with Longxiang. I have to report to the chief about the situation in the forbidden area. Then I'll go to the Longxiang tribe to meet up with you guys. We can't let the Longxiang tribe fall into the hands of the Heavenly Sword Hall. Otherwise, the Heavenly Sword Hall will be like a tiger that has grown wings. Falling Moon said immediately. Ling Xiao had already released Chang Qingqing from the beast ring. As for Domineering Blade, because of his serious injuries, he had to stay inside to recuperate. After I finish refining the Heavenly Tribulation Pill, I'll go to the Longxiang tribe. Ling Xiao thought for a moment. Aren't you going to the Imperial capital to get the evasive Swordlight Step and Godgrave Medallion? Now that the Imperial capital is defenseless, it's a good opportunity. Falling Moon asked curiously. There's no rush. Big brother Longxiang's tribe is in trouble, so I can't not go. If a third-level life-sizer appears, you guys won't be a match except for me. Ling Xiao said with a smile. Compared to the Godgrave Medallion and the Godgrave Medallion, friends were more important to him. I can't thank you enough. We'll take our leave first. Longxiang was very touched. He cupped his hands at Ling Xiao and turned to leave. Falling Moon also left. He had to report first, so he had to hurry up. Watching everyone leave, Ling Xiao disappeared into the darkness. In the Heaven End ancient ruins, he found a safe place to start refining pills. He had to go to the Longxiang tribe. First, for his good brother Longxiang. Second, Long Chun and Cold Plum were there. He couldn't rest assured. Third, the Longxiang tribe was powerful, which was the key to his rule of the Sword Dynasty. Regardless of the reason, he had to go personally. Of course, before that, he had to finish refining the pills. These pills could definitely improve everyone's strength by another level. Ling Xiao used less than 2 hours to refine the Heavenly Tribulation Pill and Healing Pill. After that, he quickly flew to the Longxiang tribe. On the way, he began to study the hegemonic sword. Once he mastered this mid-level general-level martial art, combined with the Demon Dragon Sword and Revered Ice Sword, its power would be much stronger than the Five Ghosts' mystic arts. Help! After flying for an unknown period of time, Ling Xiao had comprehended the hegemonic sword to the beginner level. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice. Was it Jin Feng Chi-Chi? He was all too familiar with this voice. After all, this little girl had been noisy by his ear for a long time. But this was clearly deep in the mountains and forests, and there was no one in sight. What was this little girl doing here? Although he was confused, he couldn't ignore it. He opened his Taiji eye and looked down. He saw Jin Feng Chi-Chi being chased by a group of people. These people were wearing the clothes of the Sword God Hull. Although Jin Fengqiqi was much stronger than when she was in the Demon Dragon Sword Court, she was no match for these people. She could only run and shout. Chapter 3153. You're so annoying. Don't chase me. Jin Fengqiqi was scared out of her wits. She took advantage of the fact that her father and second brother were in the forbidden area and her eldest brother wasn't around to play. In the end, she encountered these big bad guys. They actually kept chasing her. The few guards who were secretly protecting her were all killed by these big bad guys. They were so strong. They were all martial artists at the peak of the 18th level of hell. Although she had already worked very hard, her cultivation was only at the peak of the 16th level of hell. The gap was too big. She was no match for them at all. Seeing that the distance between them was getting closer and closer, Jin Fengqiqi panicked. Father, I won't run around anymore. Save me. Big brother, second brother, come and save me. However, this place was not close to the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. There was no one to respond to her cries. Hee, little girl, it's useless. No one will appear in this kind of deep forest. Just obediently submit. The Demon Dragon Sword Court has now completely become our Heavenly Sword Hall's slave. Your Golden Phoenix Sword Palace can't be an exception. So obediently come back with us to be a hostage. The Heavenly Sword Hall expert chasing behind let out a mocking sneer. No. Oh right, there's still Big Brother Ling Xiao. Big brother, save me. I knew you would definitely come. Jin Fengqiqi's admiration for Ling Xiao was definitely no less than her father's. Now that danger was approaching. Other than her family, the first person she thought of was Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao. That guy has probably already died at the hands of the Heavenly King. The Heavenly Sword Hall person was still mocking proudly. And even if he comes, so what? He's not our match at all. When the time comes, we'll cut him into pieces and kill him in front of you. Oh, I'd like to see how you'll cut me into pieces. Ling Xiao suddenly appeared and blocked the path of the pursuers. Big brother, you really came. Jin Fengqiqi's eyes were filled with heart-shaped patterns. She was extremely excited. She really didn't expect that Ling Xiao would actually appear when she just casually shouted. Could it be that Ling Xiao was really a guardian angel bestowed to her by the heavens? You're Ling Xiao. Humph. I'll kill you and collect the reward. Brothers, go. Before the Heavenly Sword Hall warrior could finish his words, he suddenly felt a chill on his neck, and he could no longer make a sound. A sword light pierced through his throat with unerring accuracy. Big brother, you're so powerful. Jin Fengqiqi instantly forgot her fear, clapped her hands, and shouted excitedly. The remaining 4 people pounced on Ling Xiao at the same time. Idiot. Die. Ling Xiao clenched his fists, activating his black tortoise physique. Above his fist, a terrifying magma-like existence condensed. The remaining 4 people were completely incinerated. Only 4 storage rings were left. Ling Xiao stepped forward and picked up all 5 storage rings. There weren't many mid-grade spirit stones inside, only about 100,000 in total. However, there were 5 Heaven Calamity Jades, which was not bad. Big brother, how did you know I was here? Jin Fengqiqi asked excitedly. Let's not talk about this for now. Hurry up and eat the healing pill. Then change into clean clothes. I'll send you back. Ling Xiao sighed. This little girl was too playful. Otherwise, with her aptitude, it was impossible for her to have such a low cultivation. Okay. After eating the healing pill given by Ling Xiao, Jin Fengqiqi took out a clean set of clothes from the storage ring and changed into them. Then, she was carried on Ling Xiao's back and flew in the direction of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. Xiao Jin was soaking in the blood of the immemorial demonic beast and couldn't fly for the time being. Ling Xiao didn't know where the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace was before. After hearing what Jin Feng Chi said, Ling Xiao knew that it was the only way to the Dragon Elephant tribe. Moreover, the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace had a very good relationship with the Dragon Elephant tribe. With Jin Feng Chi around, Ling Xiao naturally received a warm welcome when he arrived at the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. At this time, the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor, Jin Fengming, and the others were not there. They had all gone out to look for this little girl. Chi-Chi's mother told Ling Xiao to stay for a while, so she used a special method to summon everyone back. Ha ha ha, so it's brother Ling Xiao. Fortunately, you bumped into this little girl. Otherwise, something big would have happened, and I would owe you another favor. The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor laughed and descended from the sky. He strode towards Ling Xiao. Behind him, there were two other people. One was Jin Fengming, whom Ling Xiao knew. The other person felt even more terrifying than Jin Fengming. Ling Xiao didn't know him. He heard from Jin Feng Chi that he was her elder brother, Jin Fengyan. It's just a small matter. I happened to meet her on the way to the Dragon Elephant tribe. Chi-Chi and I have a very deep friendship. How could I not help her? Ling Xiao smiled. Anyway, thank you. I heard about the Dragon Elephant tribe when I came back. The Heavenly Sword Palace is getting more and more overboard. Not only are they targeting the Dragon Elephant tribe, they aren't even willing to let the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace off. It seems that I haven't been angry all these years. Do they really think that I'm easy to bully? The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor's face turned cold. Let's go. This time, I'll go with you to the Dragon Elephant tribe. One more person means one more force. There's no need for that. As long as the sword god Dugabajian doesn't go personally, I think I can handle this small matter. Ling Xiao said, You don't understand. The Heavenly Sword Palace claims to have one god, one sage, and 5 emperors. But in fact, their hidden strength isn't limited to this. For example, the Poison Great Sage. Although he left the Heavenly Sword Palace, he still listens to the royal family. The Heavenly Sword Palace isn't the only Heavenly Sword Palace in the Sword Dynasty. There are also 3 provinces and 6 ministries. The highest officials of the 3 provinces are all sword saint experts. Their strength is even more terrifying than the sword god Dugabajian. The highest officials of the 6 ministries are all sword saint experts. According to their official positions, they are actually on the same level as the sword god hall master. These people usually don't participate in the battle, but this time the situation is special. They might not necessarily not participate. The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor reminded, by helping the Dragon Elephant tribe, I'm actually helping the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. I even have no doubt that if the Dragon Elephant tribe is destroyed or conquered, the next unlucky one will definitely be the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. I see. Ling Xiao instantly frowned. He didn't expect the Sword Dynasty's strength to be so terrifying. He had underestimated these people. He might be able to kill 2 sword saint experts by himself. However, if the other party's military strength was too strong, he would need help. The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor was indeed a great help. Thank you, Senior. Ling Xiao said gratefully. Ha ha ha, that's right. Then let's not delay. It's already late and it's very dangerous to travel. Let's set off tomorrow morning. What do you think? Chapter 3154. The path to the Dragon Mammoth tribe was a dense forest, and at night it was only a matter of time before some vicious demonlings appeared. Not even Sword God would dare to travel at night in such a situation, and neither would Ling Xiao. If he died along the way, he wouldn't be of any help. In his opinion, the fact that the Dragon Mammoth tribe had been able to survive for so long under the pressure of the Sword God Hall meant that they had some special ability. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been called a tribe of warriors so easily. Even if the Dragon Mammoth Emperor was poisoned, he wouldn't have been defeated so quickly. Having reached this point in his train of thought, Yang Qi nodded. No problem. Let's head out tomorrow. All right. In that case, you have to enjoy a good meal here. Madam, tell the servants to prepare the banquet. I wonder what the Dragon Mammoth tribe is going to be like. Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix said excitedly. Yes, husband, Yang Qi said. The banquet was quickly prepared, and all of the experts from the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace were present. The Golden Phoenix Sword Palace was usually just as famous as the Devil Dragon Sword Court. But now that Ling Xiao was here, he realized that the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace was actually stronger than the Devil Dragon Sword Court. Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix was in the 3rd division of the life-seizing level. As for Yang Qi's wife, she was at the peak of the 2nd division of the life-seizing level. And with Jin Fengyan and Jin Fengming, there were 3 Sword Emperors. There were also a dozen Sword Emperors, all of whom were present at the banquet. After 3 rounds of wine, Madame Golden Phoenix smiled and said, Husband, I heard that this young heroling is very strong. He's ranked 2nd on the bounty list with a bounty of 20 million mid-grade spirit stones. Would it be possible for him to put on a show at the banquet? Madam, that's a good idea, but Brother Ling isn't a circus performer. How could we let him put on a show? Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix frowned. Father, Jin Fengming said, why don't you allow me to spar with young Hero Ling? That way, we won't be insulting the honored guests. At this point, Jin Fengyan rose to his feet. You don't like it? Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix said with a smile. Looking at Ling Xiao, she said, This brat just doesn't believe me. Brother, why don't you teach him a lesson? I wouldn't dare to teach you a lesson, but I don't mind sparring with you. Ling Xiao couldn't refuse him, so he stood up and agreed. Jin Fengyan walked to the center of the banquet hall as if she was afraid that Ling Xiao would go back on his word. Since they were sparring to liven things up, they wouldn't leave the banquet. Anyway, the banquet hall was very spacious. Ling Xiao smiled and walked to the center of the banquet hall. He cupped his hands at Jin Fengyan and said, Please enlighten me. Big brother, be careful. My brother, Yin, is very powerful. He cultivates the medium general level martial art, Raging Flame's divine sword. Jin Feng Chi-Chi shouted nervously from below. Chi-Chi, what are you shouting for? There's no way he'll lose. Jin Fengming shook her head and said, You don't know how scary the big brother you know is. Jin Fengming, it seems that your courage has shrunk even though you've made a breakthrough in your cultivation. Don't think that I'll lose just because you lost to Ling Xiao. I don't even care about Empress Lan or Mei Qin, let alone a mere Ling Xiao. Jin Fengyan said coldly. When he asked to spar just now, he looked polite, but now he seemed to have revealed his true colors. Empress Lan and Mei Qin are nothing. Jin Fengming curled her lips and said, I advise you to take it easy. Don't embarrass yourself too much. Humph. Jin Fengyan snorted and ignored Jin Fengming. He looked at Ling Xiao and said, To be honest, I really don't welcome you. Originally, my Golden Phoenix Sword Palace and Heavenly Sword Hall got along well. But when you came, my father wanted to help the Dragon Elephant tribe and fall out with Heavenly Sword Hall. I don't agree with that. Yen, or what did you say? The Gold Phoenix Sword Emperor frowned. Father, I have a request. If I defeat Ling Xiao, please take back your order and give up on the plan to go to the Dragon Elephant tribe. I can't watch you get cheated. Jin Fengyan looked at the Gold Phoenix Sword Emperor and said, How dare you talk to your father like that? The Gold Phoenix Sword Emperor was so angry that his face turned green. For the sake of the big picture, I can only do this. Jin Fengyan looked righteous, but in Ling Xiao's eyes, there was only disgust. His sister was almost taken hostage by Heavenly Sword Hall. Heavenly Sword Hall had killed more than 7 or 8 people from the Gold Phoenix Sword Palace. Even now, he could still say such things? How cowardly was he? Sword Emperor, please think of the big picture. The Gold Phoenix Sword Emperor didn't expect that most of the experts at the banquet would support Jin Fengyan. Even his beloved wife sighed and said, "Husband, Heavenly Sword Hall is too powerful. We can't afford to offend them. You have to think twice." The Gold Phoenix, Sword Emperor's face turned gloomy. He was actually being controlled by his wife, son, and subordinates? Ha 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 ha, good, very good. Jin Fengyan, you have improved. You are capable. All right, I promise you. If you can defeat Ling Xiao, I will immediately withdraw my order. Not only will I not help the Dragon Elephant tribe, I will also directly join the Heavenly Sword Hall. Like the Devil Dragon Sword Court, I will become a servant of the Heavenly Sword Hall. The Gold Phoenix, Sword Emperor, laughed. No one knew if it was out of helplessness or mockery. You are all bad guys. You bullied father. Big brother, you must beat Brother Yen. Father dotes on him the most and gives him all the resources first. I didn't expect him to do this. Jin Fengkiki shouted in grievance. Ling Xiao's brows furrowed tightly. He didn't care about other things, but if someone dared to make Jin Fengkiki suffer, he wouldn't let it go. Gold Phoenix Flame. Ling Xiao suddenly looked coldly at the eldest son of the Gold Phoenix, Sword Palace. What's the matter? Jin Fengyan said coldly. You made Chi-Chi cry. Are you ready to be taught a lesson? Ling Xiao's tone was indifferent and casual. In fact, he didn't care about Jin Fengyan at all. Originally, he had only intended to put on a show and play around. But now that things had developed to this point, he was a little surprised. He definitely wouldn't show any mercy. Ha 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 ha, you really think you're something? My father called you brother, and you actually dared to accept it. Do you really think you're on the same level as my father? Jin Fengyan laughed. Since he had already revealed his true purpose, there was no need to hide it anymore. On the same level? Of course not. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Gold Phoenix, Sword Emperor, are you willing to be under my command and be my vanguard to destroy the Heavenly Sword Hall? He suddenly looked at the Gold Phoenix, Sword Emperor, and asked loudly. The Gold Phoenix, Sword Emperor, was stunned for a moment before he nodded and said, I'm willing. He had already seen Ling Xiao's strength when he was in the Forbidden Grounds. This kid's talent was definitely unseen for thousands of years. It would be easy for him to surpass the Heavenly Sword Hall. The Sword Dynasty would be his sooner or later. Ling Xiao would never enslave martial artists like the Heavenly Sword Hall. Why wouldn't he agree? Chapter 3155. What? Everyone, including Jin Fengming, thought Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix was crazy. Jin Fengyan felt that his father was being unreasonable. Father, the fate of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace rests on your shoulders. How dare you do something like this? The Golden Phoenix Sword Palace doesn't belong to you alone. Jin Fengyan shouted. So you're saying you want to usurp the throne? Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix said coldly. How many benefits did the Sword God Hall give you that you can disown your own father? Father, even if I did take benefits from the Sword God Hall, it would still be beneficial to the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. You're dragging the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace into the abyss of hell. Jin Fengyan actually admitted to it shamelessly. You don't care if your sister is being hunted down by the Sword God Hall? Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix said coldly. If you weren't so stubborn, Sword God Hall wouldn't have resorted to such methods. Jin Fengyan said confidently. I think you're really hopeless. Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix looked at his eldest son with disappointment. He had spent a lot of effort in grooming him to be his successor, and he was far more talented than Empress Lan and Mei Chen. Perhaps it was because he had spoiled and protected his son too much that he had ended up in this state. Brother Ling Xiao, there's no need to save face for me. As long as you don't kill him, you can do whatever you want. Sword Emperor Gold Phoenix sighed. Father, do you think I'm still the same Jin Fengyan? I might still be in the second level of life seizing, but I've already mastered the flaming god word. Furthermore, His Majesty the Emperor gave me a high-quality Emperor-class sword, the Heavenly Demon Sword. There's no way this Ling Xiao is a match for me." Jin Fengyan laughed so loudly that the entire banquet hall was filled with his maniacal laughter. However, his wild laughter came to an abrupt end. Ling Xiao had appeared in front of him in the blink of an eye. A finger was pressed against his throat. "You know what? If this was a fight to the death, you would already be dead." Ling Xiao didn't attack. He simply looked at Jin Fengyan with disdain. "That was a sneak attack. What kind of skill is that?" Jin Fengyan brandished the sky demon sword in her hand and stabbed at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao instantly returned to his original position. "Sneak attack? To deal with you, do I even need to use a sneak attack? Idiot, use all the moves you can. Today, I will teach you how to behave." Ling Xiao hooked his finger at Jin Fengyan, arrogant and condescending. "Damn it, you dare to look down on me? Even His Majesty the Sword God said that I'm a rare pillar." Jin Fengyan was furious. She waved the sky demon's sword in her hand, and a raging flame sword soul appeared behind her. He charged towards Ling Xiao. "If he really said that, then it can only mean that the sword god you speak of is just a blind man," Ling Xiao said coldly as he easily dodged Jin Fengyan's attack. "Impudent! You're not allowed to insult my bowl." Jin Fengyan roared and attacked even faster. It had to be said that in terms of pure strength, he was one of the top second stratum life seizers. However, this brat's combat experience was far too lacking. According to Ling Xiao's calculations, even the Earth Emperor or Emperor Songtsung could easily kill him. Flowers grown in greenhouses might be beautiful, but they couldn't stand the test of time. What's the point of being able to dodge? If you've got guts, come fight me. Jin Fengyan attacked dozens of times, but couldn't even touch Ling Xiao's clothes. She was starting to get angry. "Why don't you just say that you can't even touch me? What makes you think you're qualified to fight me? You're a piece of trash." Ling Xiao didn't give Jin Fengyan any face at all. Not only did he want to defeat Jin Fengyan, but he also wanted to crush his arrogance beneath his feet. If Jin Fengyan could be saved, he could mend his ways and become Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix's right-hand man. After all, no matter what, Jin Fengyan had to admit that Jin Fengyan was talented. If he couldn't mend his ways, then Jin Fengyan would sink into oblivion and become a cripple for the rest of his life. The people from the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace all had very unsightly expressions on their faces. They had no choice but to admit that Ling Xiao was right. Jin Fengyan couldn't even touch Jin Fengyan, yet he said that Jin Fengyan didn't dare to fight him. Wasn't that a joke? "You don't want me to dodge, but you'll end up worse off." Ling Xiao suddenly revealed a mocking smile and stopped abruptly. Two of his fingertips caught the sky demon sword Jin Fengyan was thrusting at him. Jin Fengyan stabbed forward with all her might, but it didn't show any signs of loosening. She wanted to pull her sword back, but it didn't move at all. "What are you still yelling about? That's all you've got? Can you bring the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace to glory? I think your sect will be wiped out the next day. You're just a piece of trash." Ling Xiao suddenly flung his hand. A huge force flung Jin Fengyan away. Jin Fengyan knocked over the table behind her and was blocked by the others. She stood up awkwardly with a dark expression. But Ling Xiao still stood there, looking at him with a smile that was not a smile, completely disdainful. "Good. Brother Yin has been taught a lesson. Let's see if you still dare to bully me and disrespect father in the future." Jin Fengkiki was actually very respectful to her big brother when she was young. However, her big brother had become very arrogant and rude in recent years. She didn't know what was wrong with him. She just wanted someone to teach her big brother a lesson so that he could return to how he used to be. He was laughing, but most of the people who supported Jin Fengyan were as black as the bottom of a pot. Is he a real genius? How can the gap be so big? No wonder Palace Master respects him so much. Some people were just blinded by Jin Fengyan's words at the beginning. Now that they saw Jin Fengyan being taught a lesson by Ling Xiao, they suddenly understood something. Good words were not as good as good deeds. The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor didn't say much in recent years, but she made the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace survive well in this chaotic world. Especially the alliance with the Dragon Elephant tribe. It was the most wonderful thing. Heavenly Sword Hall didn't dare to underestimate the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. Jin Fengyan boasted as if he was the most outstanding young martial artist in the entire Heavenly Sword dynasty other than Duguxingjin. However, when he met a real expert, he immediately showed his true colors. Young Hero Ling is the second expert on the bounty list. It's not appropriate for you to look down on him like this. You'd better use your real trump card. You haven't used your blazing divine sword martial technique yet, right? Madame Jin Feng was really good at talking. She made it sound as if her son was defeated, not because Ling Xiao was powerful, but because her son was merciful. Ling Xiao didn't have a good impression of this woman. However, because she was Jin Fengkiki's mother, she didn't say anything. Jin Fengyan was really angry. He roared and his whole body's power erupted. Terrifying flames kept boiling. The blazing divine sword merged with the sky demon sword. The sky demon sword in his hand turned into a huge sword that was as tall as a person. Terrifying sword chi flew around the banquet hall. Didn't you say you were going to spar? Big brother, are you going to fight to the death? Chapter 3156. Why? Are you afraid that I'll kill him? Jin Fengyan mocked. Big brother, you've misunderstood. I'm just afraid that you'll get yourself killed. You're no match for Ling Xiao. It's not too late to stop now. Jin Fengming sighed. However, the more he said this, the angrier Jin Fengyan became, because he had been completely underestimated. That feeling of depression was enough to drive him crazy. Shut up. I'll let him see what the flaming divine spear is. Jin Fengyan roared, and the sword in his hand began to condense terrifying energy. Flaming instant kill. He suddenly disappeared. His entire body and the huge sword turned into a fiery light that shot towards Ling Xiao. At that moment, Jin Fengqi didn't even see how Jin Fengyan attacked. Madame Jin Feng nodded in satisfaction. As long as he used this move, even if Ling Xiao had thousands of abilities, it would be meaningless. He would definitely be killed. Ling Xiao looked at this attack with contempt and didn't even move. He just stood there, and red patterns that looked like magma appeared on his body. It hadn't been long since he cultivated the king-level black tortoise divine body. He hadn't tried out how strong his defense was. Today, he would use Jin Fengyan's attack to test it out. In terms of attack power, Jin Fengyan was definitely as strong as the Tinjua King. Therefore, when they saw that Ling Xiao wasn't moving, Jin Fengming and Jin Fengqi both stood up nervously. Only Sword Emperor Jin Feng sighed. He knew that this battle was about to end. The one who lost in the end was of course his son, Jin Fengyan. He didn't know if he should be happy or helpless. This was the battle that made him feel the most conflicted. Since you're courting death, don't blame me for being merciless. Jin Fengyan saw that Ling Xiao didn't dodge, and the anger in his heart burned even more. He didn't stop at all and directly bombarded Ling Xiao's body with a heavy blow. Clang! It was as if a sharp blade had collided with a thick iron plate. Jin Fengyan's arms were in extreme pain from the impact. The web between his thumb and index finger split open, and the sky demon's sword in his hand fell to the ground. Everyone looked at this scene in shock, unable to believe what they were seeing. Terrifying. What level of defense is this? Even a mid-level general realm martial art couldn't break his defense? Then his defensive martial arts should be at least at the peak of the general realm. The Sword Dynasty doesn't have any martial arts at the peak of the general realm. How could he have cultivated it? As expected of the person ranked second on the bounty list. This guy is too strong. No wonder he doesn't even care about Empress Lan Machen. I've already said that Empress Lan Machen is nothing. She can't even take one hit from him. She was so scared that she turned around and ran. Jin Fengming said helplessly. He was obviously telling the truth, but no one believed him. He was really helpless. What's the use of having a strong defense? Your attack is definitely nothing. Jin Fengyan was still roaring. Pa! Jin Fengyan's response was a resounding slap. Jin Fengyan was sent flying by the slap, and the door of the banquet hall was sent flying dozens of meters away. This guy was lying on the ground like a dead dog, panting heavily, and his eyes were filled with resentment. If it weren't for the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor pleading with me, I wouldn't be wrong to kill you for what you did today. I'll spare your life. Think about it carefully. I'll destroy the Heavenly Sword Hall sooner or later. Follow me or follow the Heavenly Sword Hall to the end. You can choose for yourself. Ling Xiao said in a clear voice, then turned around and returned to his seat to taste the delicious food. Big brother, you're too powerful. But I'm still very grateful that you didn't kill my brother. Although he's bad now, he's still my brother. I really hope that he can love me as much as before. Jean Fenkiki, this silly girl, really made herself contradictory. She didn't know whether to be happy or cry. Jean Fenkiki, don't be hypocritical there. You're not my mother's biological child. You're a bastard, and your mother is also a bastard. How can you be as noble as my mother? Ha 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 ha. Jin Fengyan struggled to stand up and roared with extremely vicious words. Shut up. The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor's voice became extremely cold. Scram! If you dare to say another word, I'll kill you. Kill me? Father, have you forgotten who I am? If you dare to kill me, the Heavenly Sword Dynasty won't let you off. Jin Fengyan was extremely arrogant. The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor frowned. How could he do that to his own son? As the saying went, even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its own children. He wasn't a vicious father. He doesn't dare to kill you, but I do. Although he didn't know what was going on, Jin Fengyan dared to call Jin Fenkiki a bastard. Just this alone was enough to arouse his killing intent. The reason why he didn't do anything was purely to give face to the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor and Jin Fenkiki. The two of them still treated that guy as their family. Enough, Yinner. Don't talk nonsense. Go back. At this moment, Lady Jin Feng spoke. Jin Fengyan seemed to listen to her. He glared at Ling Xiao fiercely, then turned around and left. I'm sorry, brother. It was supposed to be a good banquet, but it ended up like this. Sigh. The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor was helpless. He originally wanted to entertain Ling Xiao, but who knew it would end up like this? He was also helpless. Senior, you don't have to do this. The promise you made earlier is enough. Ling Xiao asked the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor in front of so many people if he was willing to be under his command. The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor actually agreed. It took a lot of courage for him to do so. Ha ha ha, you're right. From today onwards, the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace will listen to you, Ling Xiao. We're in the same boat now. The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor wouldn't regret what he said. At this moment, the voices of opposition had become very weak. After all, Jin Fengyan was too useless. Ling Xiao's performance was too outstanding, so they couldn't pin their hopes on that useless person. It's already late. Brother, go back and rest first. Tomorrow morning, take the Golden Phoenix Falcon of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. It will be faster and won't delay your rescue of the Dragon Elephant tribe. Since the banquet had already ended up like this, there was no way to make up for it. The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor could only do his best in the upcoming battles. However, there were still some troubles for him to deal with. He had never thought that there would be so many people in the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace who wanted to join the Heavenly Sword Palace. He had to settle this quickly. Otherwise, who knew what Jin Fengyan would do after he left? Ling Xiao followed Lady Jean Fengkiki to his room. After chatting for a while, he sent Chi-Chi back to her room and returned to his room to continue cultivating. He didn't need to sleep now. As long as he calmed down and meditated, the effect was better than sleeping. Chapter 3157. In the dead of the night, the sound of hurried footsteps suddenly came from outside Ling Xiao's door. His expression changed slightly. He knew that the situation was not good. However, he did not understand what had happened. "Thief, get out here!" Suddenly, an angry roar came from outside the door. Ling Xiao could tell that it was Jin Fengyan's roar. He did not expect that he would have the strength to shout after only 2 hours. Ling Xiao sneered, stood up, and pushed the door open. Outside the door, there were people everywhere. Almost everyone in the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace was here. There were experts in front, and even Madame Jin Feng was present. However, the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor, Jin Fengming, and Jin Fengchichi were nowhere to be seen. In the distance, there were crossbowmen with strong bows. The tips of the arrows were all aimed at him and could be fired at any time. "What, Jin Fengyan, haven't you suffered enough?" Ling Xiao looked at Jin Fengyan mockingly and asked with a smile, "Humph, so what if I'm beaten to death? You dared to assassinate my father. No matter what, I won't let you leave the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace alive today." Jin Fengyan snorted coldly. "Assassinate the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor?" Ling Xiao was stunned for a moment. Then he frowned and said, "The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor is dead." "Why are you still pretending? Before my father died, he left a death message and wrote your name on the wall with blood. If you didn't kill him, who else could it be?" Jin Fengyan roared. He seemed very sad and angry. "Young hero Ling, I really misjudged you. I didn't expect that you would treat my husband like this in the end." Madame Jin Feng wiped her tears and said miserably, "I'll ask again. Is the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor really dead?" Ling Xiao ignored the pretense of the mother and son. He had already guessed what had happened. It was obvious that the mother and son had wanted to rebel for a long time. Since Ling Xiao was here today, they could frame them. As for assassinating the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor, it was very simple for Madame Jin Feng. They slept together, so she could put something in their supper or tea. Even the Gold Phoenix Sword Emperor wouldn't be able to retaliate. What a pity. A hero of a generation had died at the hands of such a slut. It was truly a pity. Of course my father is dead. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come to you for revenge. Jin Fengyan roared again. "Where are Chi-Chi and Jin Fengming?" Ling Xiao asked again. "They fainted from grief. Naturally, someone will take care of them. Don't tell me you want to kill them as well. To think that my sister is so devoted to you." Jin Fengyan said coldly, "Haha, it's really like the guilty party complaining first. I'm afraid you were dissatisfied with Sword Emperor Jin Feng's decision to follow me today. So you finally released your wild ambition and joined forces with that bitch Madame Jin Feng to assassinate him, right?" None of the people present were idiots. How could they not know how to analyze the situation? Even if I wanted to assassinate Sword Monarch Gold Phoenix, with his strength and Madame Gold Phoenix, how could I succeed so easily? Jin Fengyan, oh Jin Fengyan, do you think everyone is as stupid as you? Ling Xiao mocked. In fact, he was stalling for time. He was using his sole power to search for Jin Fengming and Jin Fengqi. Fainting from grief? They must have been imprisoned. Before the battle, he had to save the two of them first. Bullshit. My mother and father have always had a good relationship. Why would she assassinate my father? Jin Fengyan roared. Haha, have a good relationship? Unfortunately, Chi-Chi told me something yesterday. It turns out that she and Jean Fengming are just half-siblings with you. Sword Monarch Gold Phoenix already had a wife. She was Jean Fengming and Jean Fengqi's mother. It was just that she was never pregnant. Later on, Sword Monarch Gold Phoenix married another concubine. She was your mother, the current Madame Jean Feng. She gave birth to you. Unexpectedly, not long after, his legal wife, who was never pregnant, gave birth to a son and a daughter. However, not long after giving birth to the children, she died mysteriously. Your mother then replaced the legal wife and became Madame Jean Feng. Sword Monarch Gold Phoenix has always suspected that your mother killed his legal wife. Therefore, although he and your mother are friendly on the surface, their relationship is not good. Ling Xiao said indifferently, "So what? I am the eldest son, and my mother is the legal wife. The Golden Phoenix Sword Palace will be mine sooner or later. What reason do I have to kill my father?" Jean Fengyan said angrily. "I didn't quite understand at first, until you said yesterday that Chi-Chi's mother is a slut and your mother is so noble. I had a bold guess. Your mother is actually from the Heavenly Sword Hall, and she is very likely a princess. Is there a mistake?" Ling Xiao asked with a smile. "So what if it is? So what if it isn't? Anyway, you are going to die today. Take this question with you to the underworld forever. Shoot the arrows." Jean Fengyan's expression did not look good because Ling Xiao was right. However, even though he had ordered them to shoot arrows, there were only a few who actually shot arrows. The reason why those people surrounded Ling Xiao was purely to take revenge for Sword Monarch Gold Phoenix. They did not want to listen to Jean Fengyan. However, after hearing Ling Xiao's words, they were a little hesitant. "Eldest young master, let's investigate this matter thoroughly before making a decision." A sword emperor of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace stood out and said, although his cultivation was not high, his status was not low. He was the uncle of Sword Monarch Gold Phoenix. Investigation? Third Grandpa. Do you also suspect that my mother and I killed my father and then framed this kid? Didn't you support me to submit to the Heavenly Sword Hall before? Jean Fengyan asked in disappointment. That's not the same thing. I supported you to submit to the Heavenly Sword Hall because I considered the overall situation of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. However, the Palace Lord is my nephew. His death cannot end in a muddled manner. This old man was quite principled. Enough. Old man, shut up. Sword Monarch Gold Phoenix is already dead. Now, I have the final say in the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. Whoever dares to disobey will be killed without mercy. Madame Gold Phoenix completely lost her weak and gentle facade. She was furious. Her cultivation had always been on par with Sword Monarch Gold Phoenix. In fact, her cultivation was even higher. All these years, she had been compromising because she wanted to find a way to take over the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace without being suspected. But now it seemed her plan had failed. Since that was the case, she had no choice but to reveal her true identity. "That's right," she said. "I'm the princess of the Sword Dynasty, Dugu Beijian's younger sister and Dugu Xingjian's aunt. Don't tell me you people want to rebel?" Her domineering attitude caused the martial artists of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace to back away in fear. In the face of a third master life-sizer, their resistance was like trying to smash an egg against a rock. "Did you kill the palace master?" Although many of them were backing away, they were still going to get justice for Sword Monarch Gold Phoenix. "So what if I did? What can you do to me?" Madame Gold Phoenix didn't bother hiding the truth anymore. Since the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace was so stubborn, she would kill them all tonight. Chapter 30-158. Revenge? You think you have what it takes. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Madame Jean Feng sneered. With a wave of her hand, a terrifying force exploded in the air, setting off a series of wails. Hundreds of nearby martial artists, including some who were in the first division of life seizing, were sent tumbling backward. At that moment, Ling Xiao suddenly turned and left. Trying to escape? Yen, or let's chase him. Madame Jean Feng knew very well that the key to tonight's matter was Ling Xiao. As long as Ling Xiao was killed, everything would be easy. If Ling Xiao escaped, it would be troublesome. Even if he slandered Ling Xiao in the future, anyone with half a brain would be able to see that there was something fishy going on. Therefore, Ling Xiao had to die. However, did Ling Xiao really escape? Of course not. He had found Jin Feng Chi and Jin Feng Ming and was going to save them. After saving them, he would have nothing to worry about. Only then could he fight Madame Jean Feng. Madame Jean Feng was very fast. This woman had actually cultivated the sword light steps. In an instant, she had caught up to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao had the cosmic light tiger beast soul transformation, and coupled with the earth elemental golden light technique, he was able to maintain a certain distance. However, he couldn't shake her off. That's it. Ling Xiao blasted open a room, where Jin Feng Chi and Jin Feng Ming were chained and couldn't break free. Humph, you want to save them? Those shackles are made of 1,000-year-old cold iron. Unless you have a precious emperor weapon or a key, it's impossible to open them. Madame Jean Feng revealed a look of contempt. However, in the next moment, she was dumbfounded. A sword appeared in Ling Xiao's hand. It was the precious emperor weapon, the ice-revered sword. With this sword, the shackles were instantly cut, and Jin Feng Ming and Jin Feng Chi were free. You bitch, I'm going to kill you. Jin Feng Ming's attitude was very agitated. It seemed that she knew the truth of the matter. Not only did you kill my mother, you also killed my father. I will tear you into pieces. Jin Feng Chi, on the other hand, cried until her tears were almost dry. The appearance of this little girl really made one's heart ache. Ling Xiao sighed and kept them into the beast ring. These two people were no match for Madame Jean Feng. If they were exposed, they would become the target of the enemy's attack. You're not running. Madame Jean Feng looked at Ling Xiao and said coldly, Escape? Why should I run? Do you think you can kill me? Ling Xiao mocked. That's true. You possess the ice-revered sword, a treasured emperor artifact. Indeed, it is frightening. However, do you really think that you can defeat me with a single weapon? Madame Jean Feng said disdainfully, Supreme ice sword to kill you? You think too highly of yourself. As Ling Xiao spoke, he put away the ice supreme sword and took out the demon dragon sword. Although they were both in the 3rd level of life seizing, Madame Jean Feng only had 20% of her power. The great sage of poison had 100% of his power. There was no comparison between the two. Ling Xiao had used the ice-revered sword to deal with the great sage of poison, but there was no need for it to deal with Madame Jean Feng. Are you looking to die, brat? Madame Jean Feng's face darkened. She was the princess of the Sword Dynasty, and she was being looked down upon. She was a 3rd-level life-sizer, yet she was being looked down upon by a 1st-level life-sizer brat? Mother, catch the heavenly demon sword. Jin Feng Yen tossed the heavenly demon sword to Madame Jean Feng. The moment Madame Jean Feng caught the sword, her aura became fierce, like a sharp blade unsheathed from its scabbard. She brandished the heavenly demon sword, and her martial soul roared. A terrifying energy swirled around the sword as Madame Jean Feng transformed into a cold beam of light that stabbed toward Ling Xiao. In the blink of an eye, Ling Xiao was completely enveloped by the sword. Madame Jean Feng's speed and strength far surpassed Jin Feng Yan's. When she used the same move, it was more than 10 times stronger than Jin Feng Yan's. She was also very shrewd and ruthless. She definitely wasn't a flower raised in a greenhouse. I'm afraid that quite a number of people have died under her sword. Boom! The sword energy stabbed Ling Xiao's black tortoise divine body. Although it didn't break through the defense, it sent Ling Xiao flying. He slammed heavily into the wall behind him. That was strong. That's the effect I wanted. Ling Xiao's body was embedded in the wall. His head was drooping, but he was secretly happy. Dealing with trash, like Jin Fengyan, was too boring. However, if it was Madame Jin Feng, she would be of great help to his cultivation. Is he dead? The people from the Golden Phoenix, Sword Palace, finally arrived. When they saw Ling Xiao flying, they were all worried. They knew that if Ling Xiao died, it would be the end of the Golden Phoenix, Sword Palace. They would either completely submit to the Sword God Hall and become traitors, or they would be killed by Madame Jin Feng. Isn't it too extravagant for us to pin our hopes on a young man? But now, other than him, no one can help us. That's right. Madame Jin Feng killed our palace master. No matter what, this grudge can't be avenged. At most, we'll die in battle. The death of the Golden Phoenix, Sword Emperor, united the people of the Golden Phoenix, Sword Palace again, because they saw the truth. They saw what would happen if the Golden Phoenix, Sword Palace, joined the Sword God Hall. Now, they would rather die than serve the Sword God Hall. They would rather fight until their last breath, like the Dragon Elephant tribe. Don't worry, he's not dead yet. The Golden Phoenix, Sword Emperor's third uncle, said calmly, "This young man might really become the savior of the Golden Phoenix, Sword Palace." No wonder our palace master was willing to join him. Everyone looked at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao raised his head slightly and revealed a sinister smile. A layer of armor quickly covered his body. It was the beast soul transformation. This time he used the universal tiger beast soul transformation. Madame Jin Feng was too fast. Only the universal tiger could barely keep up. The people of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace, who were originally worried, heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this scene. They were even ecstatic. He's too powerful. He was sent flying by Madame Jin Feng's sword. Not only was he not injured, but he also became stronger? This must be the legendary beast soul transformation. No wonder he's not afraid of Madame Jin Feng. Ling Xiao chose to transform because he really wasn't Madame Jin Feng's match if he didn't transform. For this woman to be able to achieve her current status and strength, she really wasn't simple. So what if he transforms? There's indeed an increase, but he's still no match for me. Madame Jin Feng sneered. She stepped forward and used the sword gleam step. Her body seemed to have turned into a ghostly sword gleam. She disappeared and appeared at times. The sword gleam stabbed toward Ling Xiao at an incredible speed. He walked out of the wall. He looked at his opponent coldly. His body showed no signs of dodging. Is he crazy? This sword is even more powerful than the previous one. The people of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace began to worry. All of you shut up and watch obediently. This is a true peerless genius. Remember his every move. He might become our strongest ally in the future. Chapter 3159. Everyone shut their mouths. The next moment, they opened their mouths again. However, they did not speak. Instead, they were dumbfounded. What did they see? They saw the sky demon's sword in Madame Jin Feng's hand being clamped by Ling Xiao's 2 fingers, unable to move. This scene was familiar. Jin Fengyan's expression was extremely ugly. Not long ago, Ling Xiao had controlled the sky demon's sword in his hand and sent him flying. Princess Dugu, I don't think there's any difference between you and your useless son. Ling Xiao mocked as a terrifying power burst out from his hand. It passed through the sky demon's sword and seeped into Madame Jin Feng's body. Madame Jin Feng's body seemed to have completely lost control as she flew backward. She could not even hold onto the sky demon's sword. However, the only thing that made her better than Jin Fengyan was that she had mastered the evading sword light steps. Just as she was about to fall, she suddenly flew into the sky, avoided the wall, and stabilized herself. Oh, interesting. You're slightly stronger than your precious son. Ling Xiao mocked. Jin Fengyan, it seems like your mother doesn't even trust you. She's unwilling to teach you such a powerful movement technique like the evading sword light steps. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made such a fool of yourself previously. Although he knew that Ling Xiao was trying to sow discord, Jin Fengyan still felt that his words made sense. His gaze towards Madame Jin Feng became cold. Mother, why? He roared. Idiot! Don't let others sow discord between us. You're my biological son. Madame Jin Feng frowned. So what if I'm your biological son? I'm not the only son you have, right? Jin Fengyan said coldly. Do you really think I don't know anything? You're willing to become a tool of the Sword Dynasty. From the age of 16 until now, you've already married 3 husbands, and each of them gave birth to a child. I've investigated. Your husbands were all killed, and even your children were not spared. Originally, I still hoped that you truly loved me and doted on me, but today I understand. After you killed my father, you were going to kill me too, right? Otherwise, why didn't he teach me the sword light steps? Furthermore, I've thought about it carefully. Although I don't agree with my father, I definitely don't have any thoughts of killing him. But you poisoned him to death and then came to me, asking me to frame Ling Xiao with you. You actually know about it? But those people are all dead. How did you find out? Madame Jin Feng was obviously very surprised. Unfortunately, you are a spy from the Sword Dynasty in the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. And the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace has spies in the Sword God Palace as well, and their positions are quite high. Jin Fengyan sneered. Isn't it good for you to continue being a stupid son? Only fools can live longer. Madame Jin Feng looked at Jin Fengyan coldly and said, I really didn't have the intention to kill you. Anyway, an idiot like you can be used by me at will. But I really didn't expect you to become so smart all of a sudden. You might have forgotten that when I was 13 years old, a child came to the Sword God Palace. He was about the same age as me. The person who brought him here was the great poison saint. At that time, that child sparred with me. He relied on the sword light steps to beat me by luck. This was originally a small matter, but Mother, when I found out that you knew how to use the sword light steps, I understood. In the end, you didn't treat me as family. Otherwise, you would have taught me the sword light steps when I was 13 years old. Jin Fengyan said coldly, I didn't expect you to remember such a small mistake. It seems that I was too careless. After Lady Jin Feng said that, she suddenly turned around and charged towards Jin Fengyan. Under the sword light steps, his speed was as fast as lightning. In an instant, he was above Jin Fengyan's head. The sharp sky demon sword pierced down. Jin Fengyan had no intention of resisting. He had betrayed his father and been abandoned by his mother. His life was in a mess. Death might be a kind of relief. It's too easy to die. You should live to atone for the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. Suddenly a voice was heard. Then a golden light flashed past. Madame Jin Feng was forced to retreat. Ling Xiao, why did you save me? Father is already dead. I don't have the face to live in this world anymore. Jin Fengyan shook his head. It's still uncertain whether the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor is dead or not. Even if he's really dead, you should bear the responsibility. I don't think I saved you. I just didn't want you to die so easily. Many people here still treat you as the young master of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. Only a coward would choose to die. Ling Xiao glanced at Jin Fengyan coldly. Without saying anything else, he turned around and charged toward Madame Jin Feng. He held the sword in his right hand, but his left hand formed a strange handprint. Then he struck out with his palm. A malicious spirit howled and charged toward Madame Jin Feng. Insignificant skills. It's not worth mentioning. Madame Jin Feng did not take the malicious spirit seriously at all. The sky demon's sword in her hand shook and stabbed at the malicious spirit. However, the malicious spirit was extremely agile. It slid past the edge of the sky demon sword and grabbed Madame Jean Feng's head with its sharp claws. "Damn it," Madame Jean Feng said. She had no choice but to back up. She was a 3rd Division life-sizer, and yet she was being suppressed so badly by a nobody like Ling Xiao. It was depressing. "Didn't you say you were strong? Why do you only know how to run?" Ling Xiao said mockingly. Madame Jean Feng didn't want to escape either, but Ling Xiao's series of attacks were beyond her expectations. It made her feel extremely shocked, and she was already panicking. What move is that? It's so strange, but so powerful. The martial artists of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace were all shocked. Ling Xiao's strength could no longer be described as a mere genius. He was close to the peak of the Sword Dynasty. Damn it! Do you really think I, the princess of the Sword Dynasty, would be afraid of you? Fine. Since you want to die, why don't you let me go? Then I'll show you how terrifying the Jade Empress sword technique is. Madame Jean Feng had thought that her plan had been exposed, and she would just run away. However, Ling Xiao's relentless pursuit didn't give her a chance to escape. Furthermore, she was very unwilling to accept the failure of her mission. Therefore, she thought of using the Jade Empress sword technique. The Jade Empress sword technique and the Emperor Hegemon sword were known as the 2 ultimate techniques of the Sword Dynasty. However, the Emperor Hegemon sword could only be cultivated by men, while the Jade Empress sword technique could only be cultivated by women. The malicious spirit was getting closer and closer. Madame Jean Feng's clothes swelled and then shrank. Her true energy condensed in the Sky Demon sword. She stabbed out with the sword. The Jade Empress's smile is charming. Chapter 3160. The sword intent of the Jade Empress's charming smile was seduction. When the sword intent exploded, it could even affect the enemy's soul. The sword technique was not luxurious, but the sword intent was very ruthless. Moreover, the sword was extremely fast. It instantly pierced through the malicious ghost and stabbed towards Ling Xiao. Hee, good sword technique. As expected, the Jade Empress's charming smile is charming, but I have more than one malicious ghost. Ling Xiao smiled coldly and put away the demon dragon sword. Both of his hands formed seals at the same time, and the malicious ghosts were constantly released. Although such malicious ghosts could not be sustained, and each of them could only attack once, there were many of them. Like a tide, they bombarded the sword chi. Madame Jean Feng's sword chi could not advance at all. Instead, it began to collapse. At this rate, Madame Jean Feng's defeat was only a matter of time. Boom! 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 The battle between the two caused the nearby buildings to collapse and collapse. However, all of this was no longer important. Everyone in the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace understood that only when Madame Jean Feng was defeated could the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace be saved. Otherwise, once Madame Jean Feng defeated Ling Xiao, no one in the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace would be a match for Madame Jean Feng. At this time, no one noticed that Jean Fengming, who had been watching the show, had disappeared. Everyone was focused on the battle between the two of them. Your sword chi is indeed very strong, but you can destroy 10 or 50 of my malicious ghosts. But how are you going to block 100 of my malicious ghosts? Ling Xiao's advantage was that his inner strength was very thick, much thicker than the average person's. Coupled with the replenishment of pills, he could easily do what Onishi Tianhai could not. Boom! Finally, Madame Jean Feng's sword chi was completely shattered, and the remaining malicious ghosts pounced on Madame Jean Feng. At this time, Madame Jean Feng had no time to dodge. Dozens of malicious ghosts hit her body, and she was sent flying again. This time, she did not even have time to use the sword light step. Her body crashed into a building and was embedded in the wall. She was in a worse state than Ling Xiao. Haha, this is called giving someone a taste of their own medicine. How did you treat me just now? I'll let you have a taste of my power. However, your Queen of the Jade Sword technique is really not up to par. Is there nothing stronger? If not, I'm going to end this battle." Looking at Madame Jean Feng's sorry state, Ling Xiao did not chase after her. Killing Madame Jean Feng was very easy. He had many methods to do so. However, he hoped that Madame Jean Feng could come up with a stronger attack to help his cultivation continue to rise. Do you see that? This is called strength decides everything. No matter what Madame Jean Feng's scheme is, in the end she is no match for Ling Xiao. Everything has become meaningless. The Golden Phoenix, Sword Emperor's third uncle, sighed. On the other hand, if Ling Xiao wasn't strong enough, he would probably be dead by now. If that was the case, the truth would be forever buried in lies, and no one would ever know about it again. The people of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace felt relieved when they saw this. Everyone was actually toyed with by this woman. If not for Ling Xiao's arrival, their Golden Phoenix Sword Palace would have been ruined by this woman. This made them both angry and guilty. The emotions in their hearts were very complicated. Boom! At this moment, Madame Jean Feng, who was embedded in the wall, suddenly rushed out. At this moment, her entire body was surrounded by sword light, but her face was shrouded in black gas. She seemed to have suffered a great humiliation and wanted to tear everything in front of her apart. "Die! All of you die!" Madame Jean Feng roared mechanically and then rushed towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao frowned slightly and formed 3 seals in a row. 3 malicious spirits flew through the air. However, to his surprise, Madame Jean Feng's body seemed to have suddenly disappeared. When the figure reappeared, it was already in front of him, stabbing at his throat with a sword. Fortunately, Ling Xiao had never underestimated any enemy. Although he was surprised, his body had already reacted reflexively. He turned into a golden dragon and forcefully moved to the side by about 10 meters. Madame Jean Feng's sword missed. How strange! Is this the evading sword light steps? It's indeed powerful. If only I could learn it. When Ling Xiao heard about the evading sword light steps from Yanyu, he had wanted to obtain it. Today, when he saw Madame Jean Feng use it, he was even more expectant. He observed that Madame Jean Feng's evading sword light steps had only been cultivated to the small success stage. If the small success stage was so powerful, how powerful would it be if it was cultivated to the transformation stage? Was this the most powerful movement technique of the Sword Dynasty? He had to obtain it. Ling Xiao, the Emperor Overlord's sword, only has 1 move. However, the Jade Empress sword technique has 3 moves. I am not talented, but I have already successfully cultivated the second move. I originally thought that this move would be used to deal with the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor. I didn't expect that the first person to see it would be you. With the evading sword light steps and my Jade Empress sword technique, you have no chance of winning. Although you have already surprised me too many times, this is the end. As Madame Jean Feng spoke, she used the evading sword light steps to shuttle through the air. Every time she touched the ground or wall, her speed would increase, and the sword Qi on the sky demon sword in her hand would increase. Interesting. Using the evading sword light steps to increase speed and power at the same time, Ling Xiao stood there without moving. He only observed his opponent's every move with a very calm heart. Ha ha ha, do you know how powerful I am, kid? This is the difference between the royal family and you lowly commoners. You won't, but we will. You will, but we will too. Madame Jean Feng laughed wildly as if victory was already in her grasp. The violent wind began to wreak havoc. The places that Madame Jean Feng passed by were all in a mess. The martial artists of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace all avoided her, afraid that they would be implicated. Brat, you are indeed a rare genius, but if you were more tactful, you wouldn't have died. But you are too arrogant. You actually want to kill this princess. Well then, I will completely destroy your dreams of becoming a powerful expert. Madame Jean Feng's voice could be heard in the wind. Ling Xiao suddenly picked his ear with his little finger. So noisy. Can't you just attack? Damn you! You dare to bluff and look down on me? Then you can go to hell. Rumble. Madame Jean Feng stepped on the wall one last time, and then her target was Ling Xiao. The Sky Demon sword was already filled with a terrifying amount of true energy. The ground where Ling Xiao was standing had sunk several meters deep because of this. He had no choice but to hover in the air. Jade Empress sword technique. Illuminate the black tortoise state. As Madame Jean Feng got closer and closer to Ling Xiao, the ground continued to crumble. It was a shocking scene. The people of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace were sweating for Ling Xiao. What a powerful attack! Could Ling Xiao block it? After all, this was the strongest attack of a third-level life-sizer. Chapter 3161. Swoosh! The extremely sharp sword Qi pierced through the thin air, and a dazzling light shone in the entire Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. This attack is not bad, but I'll show you something fun. You'll definitely be very surprised. Facing this extremely ferocious sword Qi, Ling Xiao smiled slightly. The demon dragon sword in his hand released the sword move that he had long prepared. The first move of the Emperor Overlord sword, breaking through the black tortoise state. Originally, there was only one move of the Emperor Overlord sword. However, Ling Xiao had fused the Emperor Overlord sword with his 5 ghost secret technique in the past 2 hours to create the second move. However, the second move had just been created and was not skilled enough, so it was useless. However, the power of this move was enough to suppress the black tortoise state. Boom! A huge sword Qi appeared in the sky as if it could tear the entire black tortoise continent apart. The terrifying attack collided with Madame Jean Feng's attack, and they were in a stalemate for a moment. With an insufferably domineering aura, it completely shattered Madame Jean Feng's strongest attack. Then, the huge sword pierced towards Madame Jean Feng with an incomparably terrifying, murderous aura. How could this be? Why do you know our royal family's sword principle? And why are you so strong? At that moment, Madame Jean Feng's face turned pale. She was in complete despair. Her strongest attack had been easily broken by Ling Xiao. What she could not accept the most was that Ling Xiao's move was actually their royal family's sword move. There's nothing to be surprised about. I accidentally killed Duguxiong and got it from him, Ling Xiao said indifferently. As he spoke, the terrifying sword Qi had already pierced through Madame Jean Feng's body. Madame Jean Feng's body swayed and fell from the sky to the ground. Blood flowed out of her mouth. Mother! Although Jean Fengyan hated his mother, they were still related by blood. He was still filled with sympathy and pity for Madame Jean Feng, who was about to die. He rushed over and helped Madame Jean Feng up. However, at that moment, Madame Jean Feng used the last of her strength to strangle Jean Fengyan's neck. She looked coldly at Ling Xiao and said, "Let me go or I'll kill him." "Are you an idiot? He is your son, my enemy. What does his death have to do with me?" Ling Xiao said sarcastically. "What's more, given your current situation, he was most likely captured by you willingly. Otherwise, he would be more than capable of killing you." After speaking, Ling Xiao continued to walk towards Madame Jean Feng. This woman had to be killed. The princess of the Sword Dynasty was quite strong. If he didn't kill her now, she would become a problem in the future. He might not be afraid, but his friends might not be so strong. "Ling Xiao, can you let me send her on her way?" Jean Fengyan suddenly said. This surprised Ling Xiao. "You can do it." Haha, at the last moment, I still sympathized with her and wanted to save her. But what about her? But you want to use me as a hostage? How disgusting. That's right, she's my mother. But she doesn't deserve to be my mother. She killed my father. I want revenge." Jin Fengyan was in complete despair. He had lost all hope for this woman. "If you can't do it, I can do it for you. Even if you treat me as an enemy in the future, it doesn't matter." Ling Xiao said indifferently, "You don't have to fight. Let me, the palace master of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace, do it." Suddenly, the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor, who was supposed to be dead, walked out with Jin Fengming's help. It turned out that Jin Fengming had left just now to take the antidote that Ling Xiao had given her. The poison in the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor's body was most likely from the poison Great Saint. Ling Xiao had come into contact with the poison Great Saint before, so it was easy for him to make the antidote. "You're not dead. How can you not be dead?" Madame Jin Feng swayed and fell to the ground again. She thought that even if she died, killing the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor would be considered a contribution to the Sword Dynasty. However, when she saw the Gold Phoenix Sword Emperor alive, her last bit of hope was completely gone. "Madam, I already knew your identity, but I thought that I could change your mind. But I was wrong. I was so stupid. I should have killed you earlier. Otherwise, my beloved woman wouldn't have died. If it wasn't for Brother Ling Xiao, I'm afraid that even I would have died. The person sleeping next to me is actually so vicious. It makes me feel bitterly disappointed and a chill run down my back." The Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor was filled with despair and anger. "It's all over now. From now on, the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace will be loyal to the 8 Immortals Nation." 8 Immortals Nation? How do you know about the 8 Immortals Nation? Ling Xiao looked at the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor in surprise. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Suddenly, a person walked out from the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace's martial artists. He knelt before Ling Xiao. "You are." "I'm Langya, a special soldier of the 8 Immortals Nation's Sharp Blade Special Force. I'm here to assist Your Majesty in ruling the Sword Dynasty." That person reported. Yang Qi said, "I didn't expect them to do such a good job. Rise, Langya." Ling Xiao knew who the monarch of the 8 Immortals Nation was, and he also knew who the 8 Immortals Nation's general was. What surprised Yang Qi was that Wolf Fong wasn't weak. He was actually a First Division life-sizer. How could someone like that be recruited by the 8 Immortals Nation? Of course, Yang Qi had no idea that Langya and the other special forces had only joined the 8 Immortals Nation because of him. The stronger he got, the more talented the 8 Immortals Nation would be able to recruit. You. How dare you try to usurp the throne? Dream on. My big brother won't let you get away with this," Madame Golden Phoenix shouted. "You're about to die," Yang Qi said. "What's the point of yelling? Your Sword Dynasty is targeting the Dragon Mammoth tribe, and you're going to end up in a quagmire of war. It's time for us to take over." Ling Xiao looked at Madame Golden Phoenix with a mocking expression. Madame Jin Feng roared angrily. Because her injuries were too severe, she actually died while roaring. She had died with her eyes wide open. "Since we're all here today, I have an announcement to make. Brother Lang, you came to the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace a long time ago and tried to persuade me to join the 8 Immortals Nation and become Ling Xiao's subordinate. Supported by Jin Fengming, Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix stood there weakly, but his voice was loud and clear. Back then, I didn't know much about Brother Ling Xiao, but after what happened in the Paragon Ice's Forbidden Land, and after what happened today, I was completely convinced to join him. I want to help the 8 Immortals Nation unify the Sword Dynasty." "We'll do as you say, Empress," everyone was shouting. In some ways, Ling Xiao should be thanking Madame Golden Phoenix. If it weren't for him, it wouldn't have been easy to unite the warriors of the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace. "Very well," Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix said. "For now, don't spread word about what happened here. We'll wait for Emperor Ling Zhao's orders before we do anything." Sword Emperor Golden Phoenix was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.